This podcast is part of the Batman Universe Podcast Network, hosted by the BatmanUniverse.net. Check out everything related to Batman and the entire Bat family at the BatmanUniverse.net, including news and original content related to comics, movies, television, merchandise, video games, and more. Also, check out some of the other unique podcasts that TBU has to offer. Consider supporting this podcast by becoming a patron on Patreon. Even $1 can go a long way in supporting this content that you enjoy. Look for a link over at the BatmanUniverse.net to offer your support now. And now, on with the show.
Hello.
Greetings, betrayer.
How am I a betrayer?
Oh, man. Because you spend time with my nemesis.
Dr. Ange?
That is correct.
He is a wonderful human being.
Oh.
I had an absolute blast meeting him face to face.
That's what everyone
We even
says.
faked pictures of us injuring him for you, which was horrible. I mean, his Hippocratic oath is sitting here like to do no harm, and we're pretending to choke and punch him. It was awful. I feel like a worse human being than I already am.
Well, that might be his Hippocratic oath, but not yours. So you did.
Well,
the
that's
right
why
thing.
That's why I was able to pretend injure him.
Yeah.
But such a nice guy. I believe this guy gives gifts to people just out of the goodness of his heart,
That is true.
without any expectation of anything in return. And you wish him nothing but ill will.
That is correct.
Okay, well, now that we've laid all that out, I see why you have to go on mission trips to try and cleanse your soul of all this evilness.
It's true. It is quite true.
Gotham City, like any other large metropolis, abounds in girls of all shapes and sizes. Debutantes, nurses, stenographers, and librarians.
Gotham City Library, Miss Gordon speaking.
Lopez hair removal. This is Jose.
Holy transformation. 1 minute, plain Barbara Gordon, librarian and Commissioner Gordon's daughter. And the next minute, something new has been added. Batgirl, modeled after her idol, Batman.
Holy apparition! No, Boy Wonder, I'm Batgirl. You are no longer alone, Capes Crusaders.
It took me 3 years to track down the Jade Gato, and 3 more to figure out how to steal it.
Funny, it only took me 10 minutes to figure out how to snatch it back. No matter how you do it, crime doesn't...
The Barbara Gordon Podcast, episode 180 for October MMXIX. Batgirl the Oracle is brought to you by
Justice League International, Bwahaha Podcast.
a new monthly show chronicling the adventures of the JLI era by Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis. We'll be going issue by issue in release order, tackling the core Justice League title, Justice League Europe, and the quarterly book. Along the way, we'll take time out for special episodes covering various spin-offs, cartoon appearances, the infamous TV pilot, and much more. So join me in an ever-changing roster of guest hosts as we celebrate your favorite JLI members, such as
Martian Manhunter,
Batman,
Dr. Fate,
Black Canary,
Fire,
Ice,
Maxwell Lord,
Oberon,
Captain Marvel,
Rocket Red,
Captain Atom,
Mr. Miracle,
Guy Gardner,
Booster Gold,
Blue Beetle,
Nort, and many, many more. Justice League International, Bwahaha Podcast, part of the Fire and Water Podcast Network. Want to make something of it?
Batgirl Oracle is also brought to you by MileHighComics.com, your new and collectible comic book store. Mile High Comics has an inventory of over 5 million comics from the gold, silver, bronze, and modern age, and over 100,000 trade paperbacks. If you're not into the vintage stock, Mile High Comics also has a subscription service called the New Issue Comics Express, offering a discounted price for comics ready to hit the shelves. So if you're looking for vintage back issues or a great modern subscription service, be sure to check out MileHighComics.com. Well, I'm back with a potential co-host candidate here. So last month I was able to record on my own. Here I've got another tryout and audition, and it's tough. It's tough because I would say that this person is, not necessarily on the same side as Donovan. They have come to blows in the past. So please welcome back to the show. It's been a while. The irredeemable Shag.
Barbara Gordon's hot. Wait, you told me you wanted me to be my usual self, so I just figured coming right out of the gate with that would be the way to play that. Oh, hi. Thanks for having me back on the show. I know that I am one of the historical highlight guests, and that would be the reason why I got this audition, so I'm really, really excited about it.
And you have paid your due because in the beginning you had come on for tough stories to talk about. We had Hawk and Dove with the Velvet Tiger.
We went through the wars on that one. Well, we had a Firestorm. We had Starman. We had we did
one. What was that called?
Oh gosh, that's right. Hacker Files.
We had Underworld Unleashed.
No Man's Land. We've done it all. So, and I if I could, because this is an audition, right? So I should speak my part. Sure. So I just want to talk about why I think that I make a great partner for you. And no slight against Don. I mean, he's a flake. But I mean, I get that Don and Josh and Tom and all those guys, you've known them for years, and they do a absolutely serviceable job when they're on the show. I mean, mostly serviceable job when they're on the show. And really the way I think of it is because of all the work you've done with them, if you're Barbara Gordon, let's say, in this analogy, then they're your Black Canary. They really are. Or they're your Huntress or something like that. Or you're a misfit or whatever. I mean, And there's all kinds of different relationships. And you and I, we have a different kind of relationship than you have with those guys. Ours is maybe the word I'm looking for is more intense, more powerful. You and I have talked about this before. We can't podcast together too often anyway, just because of the is passion the right word? I'm not sure. Anyway, it's very powerful when you and I podcast together. And if they're your Black Canary, then you and I both know I'm your Dick Grayson is how that works as your partnership. And it's tough to get us together as often as possible.
That is true. So I guess what you're saying is it's too powerful for the internet?
Yeah. People can't handle it. And also, think about it. Every time Babs and Dick get together for any period of time, it ends up going wrong because the guy screws it up, right?
You're right.
And that's me. That's me in a nutshell right there.
Well, I guess we'll see. There will be, of course, a quiz at the end of this particular at the end of this particular episode. And
Can I cheat off your paper?
Huh? What'd you say?
Can I cheat off your paper?
You may not. And, of course, I will also ask the Twitchers, the people, because we know they're very knowledgeable there on the internet and the social medias, to let me know what they thought of your particular performance.
See, we know how this goes because, again, you and I have done this a million times. We've been to conventions together. We've hung out. We know how people react when they see us together. They can't handle it because they see the banter, they see the relationship, and they're like – it's like a jealousy. They can't stand how close we are, and so they typically vote against me. I get it.
Well, okay. Well, everyone...
The chemistry is the word I'm looking for.
I hope that you vote with your heart and are not vindictive in your votes, and you are as objective as possible.
There we go.
Let's hope so. Well, since this is the first time we found out at least when I logged into Skype, that the last time we talked was September 10th, 2018, which must have been for No Man's Land, to be honest, when I made you read 12 different issues.
It's not really the last time we talked. It's the last time we let them listen to one of our conversations.
Yes.
She calls me almost every night when she's going to bed. It's a little weird, guys, but, we found a way to make it work.
Sure. Half the internet probably actually believes what you just said, and they're wondering what the actual state of our relationship is. But anyways.
Let them wonder. It's like a Sam and Diane, will they, won't they kind of thing.
Interesting. There is a song about that. Is that?
I even know less now what that was supposed to be. It's actually we're more like a moonlighting scenario. I think more like a Bruce Willis, Sybil Shepherd, slamming doors kind of thing. Will they, won't they? Anyway.
Okay. There's a new game. I can't remember what the other game was. It might have been a Would You Rather. I really don't, actually. But this one's a new game because it was just a lot of fun to do JLA Foreign Bodies with Tom, and then this game came from that. So we're going to play Foreign Bodies, and you are to choose a character from the comics that you would like to switch bodies with temporarily, a character from TV or film, and then... someone of the opposite sex.
Now, one of these, because I had to clarify this with you as well. So for the people at home who's trying to keep up, the last one, the opposite sex person, does have to be a real life person.
That is correct. For example,
don't remind people. No, don't remind people.
For example, Donovan chose Janelle Monáe. Hey, mine was a good choice. I was trying to help America.
No, stop.
Donovan chose Janelle Monáe as his real life opposite sex form switch.
And what was his reason for that?
I think musicality, the background, but then I also said, and you could be BFFs with Tessa Thompson, and he said yes, and maybe a little bit more. So it wasn't completely
altruistic. There it is. I knew sex was going to come into it. Yep. He's, it's all over that guy. It's just, that's all he cares about.
See.
Anyway, so you ready? You ask me, do I just fire away answers?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so first up, what person would you like to switch with from the comics?
My first one would be Wally West, specifically when he was in The Flash in sort of like the Mark Waid era. So before the whole Flashpoint nonsense and before the Flash repart. What?
Heroes in Crisis?
See, that's the kind of crap I'm trying to avoid. No, back in like the 90s when he was the Flash and the Speed Force was around and there was Impulse and Jesse Quick and all this stuff, that was an amazing era. Wally West he was living his best life. He was the fastest man on Earth. He had touched into the Speed Force. Him and Linda had a wonderful relationship. Those were just happy days of great comics. And running super speed has always been like the power I wanted to have. I've always loved that concept. And so, yeah, without a doubt, Wally West. Now, I thought originally with the game the whole thing was going to be opposite gender. So I will tell you my backup pick of opposite gender was going to be Carol Danvers. But I don't need that, I guess.
I guess not. But I appreciate that. What's your reasoning behind that choice?
Well, I first came to really appreciate the character during the Brian Reed series.
My gosh.
I made you read that. You liked it.
Oh, no, I did, but I'm just wondering what your reasons are.
No, okay, I could go all skeevy if you'd like. I mean, come on, she is hot. Yes, I would probably, figure out how all the plumbing works. Yes, but beyond that. No, she was powerful. She was great. She was independent. People looked up to her. She was a female protagonist who was kind of like a Superman-like character in the Marvel Universe at the time. She was fantastic. And then she's gone on to do amazing things as Captain Marvel. So, no, absolutely.
Okay.
Great character. But yes, my love started during the Miss Marvel era. So
I'm actually rather surprised that you did not pick Firestorm.
Yeah, I am too, now that I think about it. Okay. Oh, well.
I mean, you went with Wally. He's a great character, and you had great reasons. Okay, what character are you choosing either from TV or film?
Come on, you should know this without even having to think about it.
Well, which number is he?
Well, see, that's the thing. It could be he, it could be she, it could be anything. I could have done the opposite gender on that one, too. So, yes, she guessed it, folks. Doctor Who, or specifically the Doctor.
What's it? Yeah.
Yeah. So, if I had to pick one specific incarnation, I mean, he's the same entity. He or she is the same being, so really I could be any of them. But I would probably pick either number 2 or number 10. Number 10 is David Tennant, who's wonderful and funny and charming and hilarious and just action-oriented and fun. Or number 2, who is Patrick Troughton, who was what they used to call the cosmic hobo. He was super fun and funny and yet very brilliant and troublesome. He was a trickster of sorts. He was great, too. So any of those would be great. Any of the characters. Even Jodie Whittaker. I'd love to be her, too. So
I've still yet to see an episode. And
you're just doing that to be spiteful to me, which is really a shame. So
now it kind of has gotten that way of like,
I know
I have such a track record of not watching Doctor Who that I'm like, why even try to break it?
Because it would make your life better.
Okay.
It would certainly make you a better person.
Interesting.
All those dark thoughts that you have that you share with me in private that just make me go, oh my God, I can't believe you. It would help cleanse those evil thoughts from you, and you'd be a better person because Doctor Who is a better person.
Gosh, I told you all those things in the hope that you weren't judging me, but clearly you were.
I wasn't judging you. I just couldn't help but, have thoughts about you. Okay. So anyway, I wear this necklace every day, and I have since 1996, okay? And it is a key to the TARDIS. I'm not making this up. I wear it every single day. And this was back in the era where people started wearing the WWJD bracelets and stuff like that. I kind of decided that this was my what would the doctor do necklace. And because he always makes the right choice. He always helps people even to his own detriment. And so I wear it every day, and not always does it make me think that, but I like to think that it helps me make better choices to help other people.
Okay. And
I'm wearing it right now, and I'm trying to help you.
Well, thank you. And maybe it'll help this show in extension. And finally, what real life female are you going to switch bodies with?
See, that's a tough one. I ran through a whole gamut of people. I started with just famous actresses because that's who initially pops in mind. So I ran through Audrey Hepburn, Diane Keaton, Sally Fields. These are all some of my favorite female actresses. They're wonderful. They're hilarious. They're funny. They're quirky and just beautiful and exciting to watch on screen. Ultimately, I settled on probably not my favorite actress in the world, but she checks off several boxes. It's Emma Watson because if you look at all the things she does outside of her acting work, with women's rights and a lot of other, and they've all kind of skipped out of my head, so forgive me. But she does a lot of volunteerism. She does a lot of activism. So she's really a great person. So that checks off that box. I mean, then smoking hot, absolutely. So that checks off that box too. But I think she would be a great choice.
And there you have it. Thank you for playing foreign bodies with us.
I was thrilled to do so.
There are two things I want to talk about before we even get into the reviews. I wondered if you had seen The It Chapter 2.
I did. I did not wish to.
Okay.
I'm glad you brought it up because I was going to bring it up too if you hadn't. So yes, I did not know that was coming during the trailer package at all, and shocked me, and it was fantastic. Have you seen it?
I have seen it.
Do you want to tell the people at home what it was?
Yes. So I went with my mom. And Momsy, as I call her, and so it was fun.
Your mother listens to my podcast, by the way, just in case you're wondering.
That is true, people. She actually did listen to Shag and thought that he was delightful and fun, but that he talked really fast, and I had to let her know that I listened to it on 1.5 speed. So,
I do talk fast anyway, though.
Yeah. So I went to see it with her, and we went to a Regal, so it did this, the Coca-Cola ad and all of that. And so after that, really, the movie would start, and so you see a WB symbol, and you hear that in the red balloons. And so my mother right away goes...
hold on. Did you get the Joker trailer?
Oh, yes. Is that what we're talking about first?
Well, no, because here
I don't really.
Mine
went
a little bit differently.
As much as the other.
Well, I don't either. I'm actually very opposed to the film. It's a long philosophical discussion, but in my case, it showed the Joker trailer and immediately went into this. See, I don't know the details behind it. I thought it was one trailer. Are they actually separate?
Okay. Mine were separate. So there was Joker because I was waiting for the one that I was talking about. I was waiting for it and it didn't happen. But the Joker one was there. My mother's actually really intrigued with the Joker and wants to see it. And I'm just like,
yeah, so's my wife. I just think it's horrible. I think it's absolutely, I mean, regardless of whether it's a good film, an interesting story, I don't think it should be out there. But that's a whole different, I mean, it's kind of similar to the Killing Joke story stuff we talked about. But anyway, okay, see, mine went, I thought it was Joker. I thought they were one piece spliced together. So you're saying it's a separate, and so it just goes on the front of it. Okay, so please continue.
Mine did anyways, and it worked out really well that way because the music that they that's the It music, and it's got the red balloons. And so my mother right away goes, she goes, oh no, and because it's like, oh man, it's starting right now. And then I turned to her and I said, it's not what you think it is, because I had seen online like a Ukrainian version, and so I knew right away. But I enjoy that because Harley Quinn's like, I'm beep, done with clowns, and then it's just so quick though. I need to watch it.
We need to tell the people at home what it was.
I'm so sorry. It is the Birds of Prey. I guess it's Harley Quinn. No, it's the Birds of Prey and Harley.
The Emancipation of Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea it was coming. So yeah, so in my case, again, I see the Joker trailer, then you see all the balloons, and she says, "I am so done with clowns," and so I was like, oh, this is perfect. A segue with a segue with Joker trailer. It just seems so perfect the way they laid it out. Yeah. And so she's there with the hammer, and then that's all you get. But that was awesome.
I know. I'm very excited for it. I know some people are, and I'm hesitant to see what it'll be like, but I'm one of the few people that actually, sorry, Rob Kelly, but he doesn't listen to this show. I actually like Suicide Squad, so I'm looking forward to seeing that, and I feel like, with Margot Robbie being at the head of it, like maybe she'll do justice to the Birds of Prey. But it'll be fun to just see an incarnation of them on screen, and I'm hoping that it's not like, I don't know. I hope they don't destroy anything, but I'm going in optimistically.
I stay away from most news and website kind of stuff, or movie news like that, because I just don't want spoilers. Have they announced the director and any of the casting, besides obviously Harley Quinn, yet?
Yeah, so Ewan McGregor is Black Mask.
Oh my gosh. Have they announced Barbara?
So Barbara is not in it.
What?
Yeah, so it's Huntress, Renee Montoya, Cassandra Cain, but I think Cassandra Cain is more affiliated or aligned with Black Mask. Let me look up these people. So we're not really sure about that one. The Fantabulous Emancipation. Mary Elizabeth Winstead is Huntress, and then you'll know let's see here.
I am sitting here.
Rosie Perez, Renee Montoya.
Okay, I'm sitting. Oh, that's funny.
Journey Smollett Bell is Dinah Lance.
Do you know that person? I don't. I am sitting here with a seriously clenched jaw since you've told me that there's no Babs in this.
I know.
What?
There's a Victor
the holy heck.
Yeah, so that's the only problem, right? And I'm hoping that perhaps there's something that they're keeping something. What is this? It said writers Chuck Dixon. Oh, that just says, okay, created by. I'm hoping that perhaps they're keeping something really close to their chest, and maybe there's a lead into the movie, even though they've not cast it yet, but it could just be a shadow or something. But
every single incarnation of the Birds of Prey has had Barbara Gordon at the core of it.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that it's just it'll lead to something, or at the end it'll give something. But the problem is Harley is, I mean, she's like the Barbara Gordon character. She seems to be the linchpin with everyone. So I think it would be hard. I mean, she'd be playing second fiddle to Harley Quinn.
Well, it's okay. I don't care if she's playing. I mean, Harley Quinn's there to sell it because Harley Quinn's popular, right? So Suicide Squad 2 under James Gunn is going to be wildly successful. I have no doubt about that. The casting is great. The early stuff they've been hinting at has been great. So I have no doubt that what's that?
Slipknot.
He's dead. He died in the first one. But no, have you seen like James Gunn lists all the stars, and then he tweets out, don't get too attached to any of them because it's the Suicide Squad, which is clever. Peter Capaldi's in it. Doctor Who. Oh. So anyway, I'm just really okay. So anyway, with Harley Quinn there, that makes sense.
But you're right.
But again, I stay away from all the news. Yeah. That's seriously disappointing. Mm-hmm. Wow. Did you already talk about this with your listeners? Because I don't remember you talking about this.
I think I've had like side conversations that perhaps weren't recorded because I feel like I have talked about it, But
isn't it kind of your job to disseminate this kind of information? I mean, someone at home is hearing this for the first time as well, and they're like, "What the what?" Screaming at their iPod right now.
I'm pretty sure I talked about casting and all. I feel like I did read an article on air, but
if it's an episode with Don, I wouldn't listen.
Yeah,
so
I guess you
yeah.
passed over it. Yeah,
that's probably it.
But no, I remain optimistic that maybe there's a hint at the end of something to show at the end of it to show something for Babs. But she's I've already known that she's not going to be in it.
It's like a Fast and the Furious post-credit scene sort of thing.
That is one of my favorite series.
I'm up to the 5th one. Just watched it. Finished watching it today.
Oh boy.
My daughter, I watched it with her. I checked all the ratings and stuff on it first, and so we watched it and we got done. And she's like, "I think that's one of my favorite movies I've ever seen."
Oh.
I was like, "That's awesome."
Yeah. Well, anyways, It Chapter 2.
Yep.
That was our original thing before we got off track a little bit. So, let me tell you about movie experiences with my mother. We don't go to horror films, really. We might go to a suspenseful film. And I know her MO by now, obviously, since I've been with her for a while. So
just a few years.
Yeah, I know. She birthed me, of course. She will, in intense times, if something's leading into something, often she will dig her nails into my leg.
Well, that's sweet.
Or she will, if something pops out, she will viscerally react with and then jump or like grab me, that sort of thing. So what happens is I'm actually well prepared for whatever is about to happen. Mm-hmm. But because her reaction frightens me. So
you're feeding off of your mom.
It's terrible. It's terrible. So
you're like a succubus of feelings.
Well, I don't want to be that, but I don't know. Anyways, so 10 to 12 times, because at time 5, she's like, "You should really be counting how many times it happens." 10 to 12 times she did this to me. Basically, I lost years off of my life. She asked if I
imagine you were bleeding profusely based on the number of jump scares in that movie. Yeah.
She asked if I had any PTSD from that experience with her, and I said, "Well, I'm trying to get over it." So it was,
Heroes in Crisis to cope.
Coke?
You're reading Heroes in Crisis to cope with your experience at IT, I assume.
Oh, I get, or getting videotaped potentially.
Right.
Showing, yeah. I was about to make a Barbara Gordon reference, but then it wouldn't have been tastefully said, so I decided not to. But overall, I enjoyed the film. I think we both agree that we liked the first one a little bit more, perhaps because, the kids, they're cute. And also, I think there's more character development. You get to see them interacting with each other, whereas this one, you only get really the one scene of the Chinese restaurant and everything.
Right.
But I prepared her, I was like, I think it's gorier than the first one. It wasn't as gory. I over-prepared myself, which is good. And I was very saddened by the 2 children deaths. The one in particular, Vicky. I just thought it was so sad because she said,
Spoilers!
Pish posh. Because she said, she didn't have any friends either. She was ostracized because of her birthmark. He was going to blow it away, and that's not what he did. It was very sad. What were your thoughts on the film?
I also like the first one better. In fact, I think the kids are exceptional actors, actually. Most of them were really, really good. Yeah. The young lady who played young Bev, she was the best actress out of both movies. Yeah. She was, I believed her every minute she was on the screen. Whereas Jessica Chastain, I was like, yeah, okay, I kind of believe her. Whereas the kids I felt like the kids, I don't know whether they were just acting their heart out or what, but I really liked their parts better, I think. Mm. I mean, Bill Hader's hilarious. I love him. He's so funny. But I felt like he was delivering one-liners that were scripted, is what it felt like. So, yeah, it was fun, but I'm not really a horror movie kind of guy. Yeah. So I was simply doing it because my wife's a big fan of Stephen King, and we had gone to see where Stephen King lives, Bangor, Maine, recently, and all this stuff. So where most of it takes place. Okay. So Derry, Maine, where the movie takes place, is actually simply Bangor, Maine, where Stephen King lives. He writes about Bangor, Maine, and just changes all the names. Okay. But you can go on a tour, and they sit there and tell you this is this, and it all matches up. I mean, it is exactly that place. It's wild. Wow. So it was kind of cool to see it on the screen after you hear what it all represents.
My mom and I have just a history with it because we saw the 90s TV version together. Sure. And so when they were doing this new, I was like, let's go see this. So that's what got us into it. But yeah.
All right.
Yep. The other thing I want to mention is just I literally came back today from North Carolina, Grunkle Keith's locale, and because I want to see a professional women's soccer game, and so
did Orlando win? I didn't keep up with it.
They did not, sadly. Yeah, Orlando Pride is my favorite team because my favorite player's on there, Allie Krieger. So
and because you love Florida because I live here, I get it. I know
you're correct, but I don't like to outwardly state such things.
I understand.
So of course it's hard to. I can't really go down to Florida, and see a soccer game.
Yes, you can.
So
get in the car. Come down here.
Okay. So I had to pick, it could have been Washington Spirit, but they had just played. And then, so they were coming up to play NC Courage. NC Courage, unfortunately, fortunate for them, but they are number 1 in the league. And the Pride are number 9. So it was 6-1. The goalkeeper, Ashlyn Harris, I thought she had some great saves, but there was an own goal. Number 12, Edmonds, was doing a terrible job, in my opinion. But it was just great to be there to see, the professional soccer women, to support them, and also to see some of the women who were playing in the World Cup. So that was a lot of fun. And then they celebrated Heather O'Reilly, who I guess she's retiring. So that was so it was a fun time, and then just came back today, and now I get to stay up late and talking to one of my dear friends.
It's no different than normal. This time we're just recording it.
You're correct.
Yep.
Oh boy. Okay. So
I have been waiting. When did you start this podcast?
When did we start?
Well, I guess how long ago was it my first appearance on this show? 5 years ago? Something like that? Okay, the point of the story is...
I don't know, to be honest.
Estella just froze like a deer in headlights, or a moose in headlights. Was that from the very first moment I was on this show, I believe I began asking her if I could be on the Hunt for Oracle episode. I said, I love that story. It was so powerful. It meant a ton to me. Can I please do it? And here we are, 18 years later, or if your trailer's to be believed, 20, 30 years later. And I'm finally here. I'm so excited.
Not even close. Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. I try to get on the Justice League International podcast, but boy, you don't really hand out invitations easily, sir.
Oh my gosh. Actually, folks, she's full of it. She got invited many times. I had to blackmail her into it, and she's finally on the list to cover an JLI episode. So
yeah.
Something like that, yeah, probably.
Before we get started with Hunt for...
Oh my God, what? I want to talk about this comic so bad. You just keep going. One more thing, ladies and gentlemen.
It's related. It's related to the comic. There was a question that I keep, because I don't know if you...
Exhausted.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if you really listen to my show all the time. So a question that I thought about as I was reviewing the lead-in stories to this, both in Nightwing and then in Birds of Prey, is why, and I guess it was kind of shocking that it was the first time I thought about it, but why Oracle, Babs doesn't want Dinah to know who she is. And so I thought, I'll save this. This will be a good discussion for Shag, because we'll see what happens at the end, of course. But do you have any thoughts about this? Because it was never really discussed. It's just, she's anonymous for everyone that she talks to except for the Bat family. But to think that she has this, as intimate as she can get, relationship with the person that she's the handler for, why do you think it is that Barbara does not want that line to cross any further and for Dinah to know who she is?
Well, I think, it's a number that, and I'm talking purely in story version rather than the real world version here, like whatever Chuck Dixon was deciding. But in the story version, I think it starts off with that, she's just very protective of her identity. I mean, nobody knows her identity. Batman doesn't even know she's Oracle for a long time, right? Yep. I mean, she kept it secret for a long time. Then you get to 1996 when Birds of Prey starts. And by then, I think Batman did know. Pretty sure he did. And I had my years try to get a little blurry, but either way. So I would say by that point, it was, when you first read that first special, which I bought off the shelf the day it came out, so I've been a Birds of Prey fan since the first day, Dinah was a broken person. She was a mess, because Ollie had just died, and she couldn't figure out and get her junk together, and she was doing all kinds of stuff that was out of line. And so I think at that point, Barbara didn't want to tell her because she was so broken. Then, and this does come into a little bit of Chuck Dixon-ish. I think Chuck retroactively came up with an idea to why Barbara keeps it secret, is because, and you've seen some seeds of this sprinkled. You just talked about it in a recent episode where you talked about how you find out that Power Girl used to work with Dinah and something went horribly wrong.
Babs, you mean?
What did I say, Dinah? Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes. Power Girl worked with Babs, and Power Girl knew that Babs was Oracle, right? And because she talks to, didn't she talk to her and say, even asks, Dinah doesn't know your identity?
Yeah.
Wasn't that in that issue? Yeah. And so what you get there is Chuck Dixon, at least at that point, creates this backstory. He says, okay, Oracle was partnering with Power Girl. It really went badly. And I think Babs learned in that case, you know what, I need to have a separation, a professionalism here with my agents. I can't get too close to them. And that's why she decided to wall herself off and not let Dinah in. I think that's in continuity story. I think that's what it is. Again, I think Chuck Dixon added that later as a retroactive idea, and it'll play out over the next several years or however long it took for all this to come out. But I think that's what it's about.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think especially, we don't, or the audience doesn't know yet about the history with Power Girl. I haven't gotten there yet, but I do recall from
the seeds have been planted.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we know that, there's no love lost between the two of them, perhaps more on Power Girl's side. But yeah, we'll see what that is. And I think in general, you get a lot from Birds of Prey number 8, I think, as well. And that was more of a romantic situation. But she very much lays it out how scared I think she is. And she tries to keep closed off and everything and is very much in a healing way. So if she's saying that to Dick, I think it applies to Dinah as well. But yeah.
And just, the Power Girl thing, the way he lays it out early and it just stretches out. Hats off to Chuck Dixon here because, he's writing Nightwing, Robin, and Birds of Prey all at the same time at this point. And he's laying so many seeds that he knows are not going to pay off for years. Mm-hmm. And it's just so fascinating to watch a writer tackle a book that way because no writer tackles that book nowadays. Everything's got to get done in 6 issues, maybe 12 issues at most. They're going to have all their stuff out of their system, and they don't plan on stick around because either the company's not going to let them or they just don't get a chance to. So for a writer to play the long game like this with these characters, it's wonderful to watch. Yeah. It's like a symphony because all the pieces working together, and it's just lovely. I remember reading Nightwing, Birds of Prey, and Robin, and I even told Chuck Dixon at this one point. It's like that was my favorite era of reading these 3 books together because it was like I called it the triumvirate because all 3 were great and they were all in sync. And I even stopped collecting Batman and Detective and continue with these 3 books.
Yeah. Yep, the Beeb thing, I think he lays and those are really small crumbs. But when that finally, I feel like that took over a year to reveal that Beeb was Blue Beetle. And then the blockbuster, like that's been going on for a while where you just have these little epilogues. Long time. And then all of a sudden we're here now. But yeah, so he does a great job to sew it. And yeah, so now it's finally paying off.
You mentioned Blue Beetle in a recent episode where where Robin is so excited about meeting Blue Beetle.
The harem episode.
Kiss, kiss, fall in love.
That's right. Here is a interesting fact. Maybe you already know this, but and I don't remember all the details of it. But at one point, Chuck Dixon had a plan where Dick Grayson wasn't going to. No, sorry, not Dick Grayson. All the names, I'm screwing them up tonight. Tim Drake wasn't going to be Robin for a while, and he was going to become the new Blue Beetle.
Oh wow.
Yep. And DC didn't want to go that way. Okay. So it didn't happen. But somewhere out there on the interwebs, you can Google it all and you'll see where he had a plan to make him Blue Beetle. So I think he was trying to sow some of the seeds right there by having Tim Drake be in total awe of Blue Beetle.
Yeah. And then they walk out together since Tim was scared of Nightwing in the danger room.
So that would have been part of the plan. Because I want to say Dixon wrote a story where Tim Drake stops being Robin. I don't think that's the Stephanie Brown stuff because I think that was Bill Willingham. But either way, that was going to be part of an arc for Tim. He would have been Blue Beetle for a while.
Wow, that's interesting.
Oh, Tim Drake, I miss you as Robin so much.
Oh, what's his new name?
Drake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just like Dick Grayson became Grayson.
I see.
It's just.
What if they confuse him with the hip hop R&B singer?
That's exactly what's going to happen. I don't blame Bendis. No one knows for sure what really happened behind the scenes, but Bendis is the one who gave us Tim Drake back as Robin, back in essentially the original costume in the first wave of the Young Justice issues. So I think Bendis had every intention of making Tim Drake Robin again. And then now suddenly DC's like, oh, hello, no, we can't have multiple Robins anymore for some stupid reason. And so Tim Drake lost the job again. Best Robin there ever was, too.
I'm so sorry. Okay, well, we're finally here.
That was nice. You just blow me off, and that's fine.
Well,
you don't care? Who's your favorite Robin?
Oh, Damian Wayne.
Just hang up on me now.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Why am I your friend?
That's why I didn't say anything, because I knew.
Why do I continue to be your friend? I don't understand.
I think it's the comedy that keeps us together.
It could be. It could be. Did you at least read the Super Son series?
No.
Because that's Damian as Robin.
It is. I read, to be honest, I've fallen away from DC, so I only read Batgirl and Wonder Woman.
Okay.
But I did
DC
in the beginning read Super Sons, and I thought it was fun because I like Peter Tomasi. So
yeah, yep. Tomasi does everything great. Absolutely. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, right, so we're finally here. I know that this is what you've been waiting for. Now, normally my co-host writes recaps. And in this case, my co-host refused to write the recap, so I guess
not true.
It's a point to Donovan there. But luckily for me...
Complete lies. Utter and complete lies. None of this is true, ladies and gentlemen.
DC Wikia has come through once again, so I, copied and pasted, which I tell my students not to do. But
So you didn't even write them?
That's correct. Well, yes, I'm giving credit to whoever wrote it on DC Wikia. And
so even you make a lousy... co-host because you didn't even do your own work. Oh my god.
Hey, I write all of my own Batgirl recaps, okay? So it's tiring to run a show, as you know.
I have a whole network. I understand.
I did offer, this guy to fill in any gaps he may have seen, or he's just going to read it straight from what I posted. But so his job for sure, though, is to read these recaps. So I think
all 4?
Yes, I think read all 4. And then I have some specific things for each of the issues, and then, of course, broader questions on the whole story.
So should I embarrass you by making corrections as we go through here? For example, when you listed the wrong Birds of Prey number in the second set of the recaps?
45, yeah. 20.
Yeah. Keep going.
46 Nightwing,
and 20 again.
Oh, and it says Hunt for Oracle Part 2, doesn't it?
Yeah, see, so...
Okay, well, I'm changing on my doc, but it's not going to
I'm changing it on mine as well, so... All right,
well, I wrote that on my own, so that was in DC Wikio, so I guess if you want...
Oh, so the only part you wrote was wrong. Perfect, okay. So how do you want to do this? Do you want to go issue by issue, or do you want to cover them... I say we cover them all at once, because it's one big story, so that's my opinion. Okay, here we go, folks. Nightwing, number 45. The Hunt for Oracle, Part 1. Issue title, To the Slaughter. Now, it's written by Chuck Dixon, of course. Penciler is Greg Land. Inker, Jose Marzan Jr. Colorist is, wow. Wow. Patriarchal Mulvihill.
That's somebody. Come on, man.
You put an L on the end of it.
A minor
Patricia
typo.
with an L. Okay. Molehill. This is like a Seinfeld episode or something. Okay.
It really is Molehill.
Yes. Cover date is, see, folks, that laugh, that's why I'm the best co-host.
Oh
July 2000 is the cover date. Here's your recap. Nightwing, meaning Dick Grayson, and Night-Wing, meaning Tad, find themselves in the clutches of Blockbuster, who has hired 2 siblings specializing in torture. While Tad, Nightwing, gets thrown into a cell, the torturers shall do their work on Nightwing, Dick Grayson, to find out anything regarding Oracle. Some other thugs are searching the area around Blockbuster's house for a vehicle, and they find Nightwing's car, Nightbird, which automatically engages its defense systems, which means it blows up. But that does not but it does not prevent the car from getting blown up by a bazooka. That's right. I got it a little out of hand there. Sorry. Meanwhile, Blockbuster covers all the angles, as he has not only hired the 2 computer experts, Mouse and Giz, to digitally locate Oracle, but also has Lady Vic and Brutal to bring down Black Canary. As Mouse and Giz are using secured hardware from the Nightbird to locate Oracle, Nightwing is treated with a truth serum. But Dick only acts like he's being affected by it and then headbutts the 2 siblings. When one of them wants to continue the interrogation using an electric drill, they're suddenly gunned down by none other than Cisco Blaine, the right hand of Blockbuster. Nightwing's perplexed to hear that Blaine actually is a federal agent. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. We're just going to keep rolling, right?
Yep.
Okay. Birds of Prey number 20, the actual number 20, not the one she tried to label multiple times. The Hunt for Oracle Part 2. This issue, The Noose. Writer Chuck Dixon, artist Jackson Geis, colorist Gloria Vasquez, and Digital Chameleon. Love that guy, Digital Chameleon. You know, that's on his birth certificate. Cover date was August 2000. Well, Black Canary is being hunted by Lady Vic and Brutal. Blockbuster continues to push his other mercenaries to find the real person behind the digital myth named Oracle. Barbara keeps herself mobile in her Humvee and tells Black Canary that she needs her in Gotham. However, during the conversation, Lady Vic sneaks up on Dinah and knocks her out. Nightwing, now Dick Grayson, has been freed by Agent Ronnie Houston, also known as Cisco Blaine, and Dick wants to go to his car to turn the Blockbuster files over to the federal agent and thus asks Houston to free Tad, which is also the other Night-Wing. As Black Canary comes to, she is still in contact with Oracle. Dinah is being held on a private jet and thinks she's on her way to Gotham City. Meanwhile, Nightwing finds out that his car exploded, so all evidence against Blockbuster got destroyed as well. He gives a quick call to Robin and warns him that Oracle might be in danger, but the situation gets much, much worse as Night-Wing, Tad, tells Dick that he killed Cisco Blaine. Oh, noes! All right, then to Nightwing number 46, The Hunt for Oracle Part 3, The Dying Hours, by Chuck Dixon, writer, penciler, Greg Land, inker, Jose Marzan Jr., colorist. I swear it's Patricial. It is not, but it's spelled that way here. Patricia Mulvihill from August 2000. Oh, my goodness. All right. You can't make this stuff up. Nightwing Dick Grayson is furious that Tad just told him that he killed Cisco Blaine. Tad has no clue that Blockbuster's right-hand man was actually a federal agent working undercover. As Nightwing tries to explain to Tad that he's not supposed to kill anyone, they are suddenly attacked by Grim the Gorilla. Dick electrocutes him with his suit taser, but even that only knocks the big gorilla out for a few seconds. Thankfully, Robin and Alfred arrive just in time, and Alfred's packing a shotgun, by the way. It's Alfred who takes down Grim, but he's using rubber bullets. The three men want to get to Oracle now, but Alfred's van is already being followed by another one of Blockbuster's newest mercenaries, Thrill Devil, which is really awesome. Meanwhile, in Blockbuster's private jet, Black Canary is able to free herself. She overwhelms Brutal and jumps out of the plane with a parachute, but Lady Vic is crazy enough to jump after her without having a parachute herself. Lady Vic grabs Black Canary, but Dinah knocks Lady Vic unconscious and both glide to the ground safely after the parachute opens. Then Dinah rents a sports car and contacts Oracle while making her way to Gotham City. But it might be too late because Mouse and Giz, the two computer specialists hired by Blockbuster, have finally tracked down Oracle into an abandoned submarine base. Dun, dun, dun. Birds of Prey number 21, The Hunt for Oracle Part 4, known as The Deep. Writer Chuck Dixon, artist is Jackson Geis, colorist is Gloria Vasquez. This is September 2000. Blockbuster has gathered his troops around an abandoned submarine, which he believes is the current hideout of Oracle. Via cameras, Oracle's able to watch how mercenaries are, how they're all entering the submarine and what they're doing. She talks to Black Canary, who's still 30 minutes away from her, though. So Oracle detonates some explosives so that the water begins to flow into the holes of the old submarine. The bad news, though, is Electrocutioner is there, who generally should stay away from water, though. Not far away from the dry dock, Nightwing has bested Thrill Devil, and Robin and him spot the fireworks nearby, and as they guess they will find Oracle there. Even though Barbara cannot move her legs, she's still able to defend herself and holds the intruders at bay because she is a badass. Then she takes a long dive to get out of the submarine and is finally rescued out of the water by Black Canary, who finally meets Oracle face to face. Dinah carries Oracle to a hangar, which is quickly surrounded by Blockbuster and his thugs. Black Canary wants to save Barbara, so she steps out and tells Blockbuster that she is actually Oracle, meaning Black Canary says she's Oracle. And after Blockbuster has left with Canary as a prisoner, Nightwing, Robin, and Alfred Pennyworth find Oracle, who is very disturbed at how the situation has turned out. To be continued.
Yeah, so
not in The Hunt for Oracle, in a whole different story.
Yeah.
Woof,
so
that's a lot to take in.
It is. Yeah, so before we get into little details and things like that, I wondered, as a reader at the time, what was the hype, the setup for this particular story, and how was your reaction? going into it.
This was super exciting. This is really, because Chuck Dixon had done a good job building up to this sort of, you get into the flow of the way the book works, right? But he started reminding people that that Babs and Dinah didn't know each other's, that Dinah didn't know Babs' identity. He started, like you mentioned a couple issues ago with Power Girl, he starts to remind the readers, oh, Dinah doesn't know. And so it's coming. It's building. So it got very exciting. As a reader, I was totally excited about this event. It reads just like an action movie. It's like a summer blockbuster, this 4-part story. It really is super fun. And you think about it as a reader, though, even though it's 4 issues, it's across 2 different books. So really, you get this knocked out in 2 months, which is a nice, pretty quick pace sort of thing. So when it gets to the big final moment, when Dinah reaches down, pulls Babs out of the water, and she says, or something, I don't have the page up. It says something to the effect of, like, I assume you're Oracle or whatever. And Babs says, call me Barbara. Mm-hmm. And I remember very specifically reading that and crying, because it was just, I don't know whether it's the layout or the buildup or the excitement or just the cathartic release. It's a powerful moment. It really is. It had an impact on me all those years ago. 19 years ago now? And I remember getting, mushy and teary and excited. And now I reread it again for this podcast. I've read it twice now in the last couple of days. I have gotten teared up both times reading it again, all these years later. There's just something about the scene. I'm trying to get to the page right now where Dinah is holding Babs. Here it is, right here. You get 4 panels along the top, and are you Oracle? Right? Not Oracle. Barbara. Call me Barbara. And it's the way Dinah is holding her. It's, if someone could do one of those out of context panels and, pretend it's romantic, because there is almost, the way it's illustrated, there could be a romantic sense to it, the way Babs is being held by Dinah. But it's 2 people who love each other, and regardless of romantic love or friendship love, whatever it is, there's a sense of love in that panel, and it's powerful.
Absolutely.
What about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't reading at the time. I'm a late comer to Birds of Prey, but I had known about this particular storyline for a long time, because one of my sort of Dick and Babs origin stories is that I just tracked down issues that they appeared in with each other, and that was like my list that I carried, is just these out of context issues of Nightwing and Birds of Prey, or Barbara and Nightwing. And
she called it her Nightwing butt shot list, is what the list was labeled, folks.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And this was on it, and so I had a couple parts, but not all parts of it. So I had seen this, like, leading up to it, this whole thing, I think, before getting my whole Birds of Prey run. So I think the impact was still big, but not as big, knowing that they didn't know each other as much. So there were a lot of question marks of, like, oh, wow, this is their first meeting. What must that be like? But now, having read everything sequentially, it's so much more impactful, because I've been really parsing all their on-air interactions and, like, look at what this has been like. Look at the tension here. Wow, they seem like friends. Yikes, Dinah's trying to get to know Barbara a little bit more, but Barbara's like, it's none of your business, with the Jason Bard thing. And then we get to here, and yeah, it's actually one of my favorite panels, that right there. And it's interesting because she says, oh, you've been shot. Can you move your legs? And Babs says, no. Oh, you've been shot. So that saves her an explanation there. But just, this is like a huge climax of a multi-year storyline, and seeing them
4 years.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it has been taken out of context, because this is one of the questions I want to bring up, because a lot of people feel like there's some homoerotic feelings here in this particular panel, which actually really annoys me, because I feel like it's sort of perverting an image to something that is not intended. And I do think it's really beautiful that she's the one who has come to her rescue, and then it's this great moment of there's finally this revelation, and you're just wanting to know, what is this relationship going to be like as it continues, and yikes, now she's taken away, we won't know for a while. So yeah, it's one of my favorite panels and moments, I think, in the Birds of Prey run.
And if you look at their faces, and where the placement of the hands, I can see why some people have, taken it down the wrong path. And honestly, at this point, if they had taken the story in a direction where they did start to develop romantic feelings for each other, I don't know that it would have been terribly opposed anyway, because they had developed this friendship for 4 years. Sure. Not that it's neither one of them have that in their history, but they were so close that it could have gone that way. But I liked it better as sisters, if you will. And I love this scene of it. And it's just pure joy is what's on their face. They love each other, and they're just so happy to finally be together. And especially after they, a few minutes ago, they thought Barbara was going to die.
Yep.
And so the fact that Barbara didn't die, there's that huge relief over that. I mean, Dinah's putting her life on the line every week. So, it's just very powerful. And again, I got teary-eyed all those years ago and teary-eyed now. So I think that's a sign of a powerful comic.
Yeah. And the fact that Babs was willing to break down that wall that she had built up and gave the location and everything and wasn't just relying on the people that knew her in her network, I think was also big, a big personal step for Barbara.
Yeah. Well, here, too. I mean, when she pulls her out of the water, she didn't have to tell her name.
That's true.
She didn't have to say I'm Barbara. She could have just kept calling herself Oracle.
Yeah.
Because, Dinah's only met her as Batgirl. And so it's not like she would have figured out that these are the same people. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, she could have just kept that secret going.
Absolutely.
Yep. So, such a great payoff. Now, we jumped all the way to the end.
I know.
But, there's so much more to talk about.
Yeah, I want to start at the beginning, actually, with the covers. I like to talk about the covers that we go through. Mm-hmm. Now, something that's pretty fun about these covers is that you can put them together and they make a full clock.
Yep.
Which is something that I recently discovered, but I think that's pretty interesting. And, of course, as the issues continue, the clock keeps ticking forward, kind of a la the Doomsday Clock and Watchmen and everything. But
what's interesting, the clock's a little weird because, part 1 and part 4, the clock is all covered in blood.
Yeah.
But part 2 and 3, it's not.
Yeah.
So, oh well. Yeah. But yeah, the covers are super fun.
Yep. So with the first one, of course, we have Dick in the torture chamber with the 2 creepy. So I would say that this one's probably my least favorite.
Oh, really?
If I were, well, maybe not. I don't know. I numbered the 4th one as my favorite, I would say. I think that's...
Well, but they're all great. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, but yeah, it's very creepy.
So the Nightwing one, we need to say, because we didn't talk about the art teams really very much, this is Greg Land. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of you may immediately flinch when you hear that name, but this is back in 2000, when honestly Greg Land was drawing really nice superhero work. It was wasn't as much porn photo reference at this point. It was more super heroic stuff, and it looks really good. So I really like him with the Creepy Doctors. I think it looks great. It's a great shot.
And then the second one, we have Dinah fighting off Lady Vic and Brutale or Brutale.
Yep. I just call him Brutale. Maybe it is Brutale. I don't know, but
I kind of wonder why there's not more of a background in this one besides the clock, because it even says Jungle Action. Instead of the green, just that tone, you kind of want there to be something more, but that's just, there it is.
This cover's drawn by Jackson Geiss, and I'll put it out there. I enjoyed the Greg Land issues artistically more than I enjoyed the Jackson Geiss issues artistically.
Okay.
Even though the amazing payoff is by Geiss, and he does a great job. And I'm not trying to slight Jackson Geiss by any means, but in reading these, it really struck me the differences, because Geiss has a very it's not sketchy, but it's a rougher style than Greg Land. Greg Land's a little more polished, at least at this point. Greg Land's a little more polished, and it actually struck me that it would make more sense to have actually had Greg Land on the Birds of Prey book and Jackson Geiss on the Nightwing book.
Oh, interesting.
Because, Greg Land, besides doing great action, he draws beautiful women. He's really good at drawing sexy women. And at this point, again, they're not over the top. It's not ridiculous porn style that he normally does. So I think he would have been really good on Birds of Prey, and Geiss would have been good on Nightwing. However, at the time, Nightwing was probably selling better. So it probably made more sense to have him on Nightwing, Greg Land on Nightwing instead.
Gotcha.
So, but yes, I do think you're right. And now that you pointed out, the background is a bit of a letdown on that Geiss cover. Yeah.
The part 3 is Nightwing and Thrill Devil. So action oriented. We've got a bike in there, so that's pretty fun.
I love the design of Thrill Devil.
Yeah.
He just looks so cool. He's got the red and the flames and the cool demon face, and he's riding a motorcycle. And it looks like they're up in the air. It just looks really cool. And Nightwing looks great, like rah, about to punch him and everything.
Yeah, he's like Evil Knievel potentially.
Yeah, exactly. I like that.
And then my personal favorite, honestly, is the Birds of Prey 21 cover. Just, number 1, Babs is on it. And I think that a great job is given. Who did this one?
This is Geiss.
Okay, it is Geiss. I was looking for his signature, but couldn't see it. Has her legs wrapped up, just like in Birds of Prey number 8, so that detail there. You've got her Screama sticks on her left arm, and then the tech gadget on her right, and you don't know it's filling up, though I guess you can assume, but there's water and you're like, oh no, is she going to make it out of here? I think it's just, it's a great pose.
Yeah, I can't tell whether she's wire riding, like she's doing wire work, or whether she's holding herself up. I think she's holding herself up against the walls, like climbing them. I always digged when they bound Barbara's legs like that, because it looks a little creepy, but it also allows her a lot more range of motion. Right. She doesn't have to worry about her legs getting in the way. And I think that the whole thing with her in the sub, and this cover's representative of it, was amazing. She was so cool in that submarine, the way she kicked everybody's butt, and she was still very effective. It was great. Absolutely.
Okay, so if we were to go back to part 1, got a couple questions on that one. Well, one thing I pointed out is that I saw and pointed out to myself, is that several times at the beginning, they were actually assigning she and her to Oracle. And then they change it near the last half to they. And so that was a bit of a mistake, mainly because up till now, if they were to assume any gender, it was going to be male. But sure. They didn't know that. So I thought that was an interesting little thing there.
And normally you would chalk that up to the writer. But in this case, it's the same writer. So I guess the editor could have been the one who maybe kept it inconsistent. I'm not sure. Yeah. Maybe that's how it happened.
I wondered if you had any particular knowledge on these 4 villains that we see here: Mouse, Giz, Brutal, or Lady Vic.
Okay, well, there's a lot of villains to talk about. So can we talk about a little more holistically of the whole thing?
So let's do it.
Yeah, so you got Giz and you got Mouse, you got Thrill Devil, Brutal, Stallion, Electrocutioner, Lady Vic, and then there's a few other that maybe I'm forgetting. But I love this little collection of second-rate villains that Chuck Dixon had either created or cultivated. I guess Grimm is one of them too, the ape. I just always thought that these guys were like the Batman Gotham City also-rans, the ones that could have made it, could have been the next Two-Face or could have been the next ventriloquist or something like that, but didn't quite break through. And I just love this little collection of villains. Like Lady Vic shows up a lot. She is around for a long time. And she is a great villain. I really enjoy her. She's the one who probably got fleshed out the most that I can remember, with the British accent and the posh background and things like that. Personally, and maybe it's Greg Land's illustration, but I really took to Giz and Mouse. I thought they were great, to the point where I actually looked them up a little bit here. I assumed this was their first appearance. It's not. Giz's first appearance was in a Catwoman issue, written by Chuck Dixon, of course. Mouse's first appearance was in a Robin issue, obviously written by Chuck Dixon as well. So they're his creations. And I'm assuming Giz is probably, because he's a tech guy, I'm assuming that's short for Gizmo, probably.
Yes, yeah.
I love that he's got a pet squirrel named Goober.
I know.
I think that's adorable. What a weird, quirky thing that's just perfect for like a Batman kind of universe villain. And then Mouse, I didn't quite get Mouse at first, but then it had finally clicked. Cat and Mouse. If you look at her costume, she looks like Catwoman. It is purposely a nod to Catwoman as Cat and Mouse. It's got to be. So I don't know whether she ever appeared in the Catwoman book, but she would have been perfect for the Catwoman book. Mm-hmm. So I enjoyed them. Thrill Devil I just thought was cool, was a fun bike guy. I really like Brutal. He makes a ton of appearances as well. He's got all these knives, and he's even got knives like poking up of his ears to almost look like they're simulating Batman ears, which looks great. He's got a really kind of creepy stitched costume. I want to say he's from South America, if I remember right. Really interesting kind of bladed sort of weapon guy. I liked him. I think Stallion's hilarious with the whole Western motif. Oh, gosh, and he's got the whole cowboy thing.
There's some sort of pooter here,
right? Electrocutioner,
like I don't. Pete or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Electrocutioner, I didn't care one way or another about him, but other than the fact that they're in the submarine and all the water's there, and he accidentally shocks everybody, which cracks me up. So, but yeah, I just love this. They call them online. They call them the Blockbuster Gang, but I prefer to just that's the Gotham almost rans, or like the not ready for Gotham City primetime players kind of thing.
Which is interesting because somebody asks him, I don't know if it was Cisco or if it was Grimm, that. Are these people worth the money or whatever? Or are they any good? And Blockbuster says they're the best that money can buy. So he has more confidence in their abilities than you do.
He does? Yeah, well, okay.
Or he potentially rates them higher on the list than you do.
Well, a lot of the Gotham City villains that Batman fights, though, you can't buy them because they're all crazy.
That's true.
And they're on their own agendas. These are ones that are mercenary ones that you can actually hire. So I think that maybe that's some of the difference. But also, it's Chuck Dixon's doing what Chuck Dixon did best. He's playing in the Chuck Dixon verse. He's creating. I don't know if he created all these guys, but he certainly created a bunch of them, if not all. And he's building up this rogues gallery of villains that honestly should have got more play. I mean, some of these guys. Now, I didn't like the torturers, and they got taken out pretty quick, shot and killed, which is fine. Yeah. But so, what did you think? Who was your favorite of all these little, as I call them, second almost rans?
Yeah, I think. Mouse. I think Mouse and Giz were my favorite, maybe Mouse in particular, it's interesting. There's a panel actually I really liked where Mouse is standing in front of Blockbuster, and just to get a scale of how huge Blockbuster was, it was really interesting to see her in front of them. But the fact that she was able to almost be on level or on par with Oracle, I think was pretty respectable. I mean, she was able to backtrace using Dinah, but like figure out even how to do it. I thought was pretty good job, good on you there, Mouse. I was surprised with Brutale, I don't know, that he seems a timid villain. Like when
he's out of costume or when he's in costume?
Both. Like he just seems a little nervous. Like he'll hide I don't know if it's the height, because you find out he's rather small, but it just seems like he's sort of tittering behind Lady Vic, and she's the one who takes the first go at things, and then he'll follow on. In my opinion, I mean, that's just how I kind of read him. So it's just interesting that his costume, and he seems very threatening with all the knives, but then when you actually get to see him, it almost seems like he's rather nervous or timid.
I wonder if part of that's his shtick, because his knives are throwing knives.
True.
So that implies right, he doesn't want to be in hand-to-hand. He wants to fight from a distance. So maybe that's part of it.
You might be right, yeah. But I like having, Blockbuster. I mean, Blockbuster is so desperate to get this Oracle person off his back that he hires this gang. And when a couple of them will not do, he just keeps, throwing money at the problem, which is very interesting. And it's almost like an anti-Birds of Prey to a certain extent. I mean, Barbara doesn't have the huge team or just the sizable team that she will and often does now in modern times. But it's just fun to see, here's this team going against the Birds of Prey team. And you need all of these bodies to take down one woman. So yep. I think that goes to show, how amazing Barbara is for sure.
Well, and they don't really have any teamwork. They are all independently operating. So that's another thing, too, is even though they're all the bad guys are working together, they're not using any teamwork whatsoever. So that might have helped them if they'd done that. So that maybe – I don't know if Chuck Dixon's trying to show that or not, but I noticed it as I was reading it. Also, oh, gosh, I was going somewhere with this, too. Oh, well, I will ask you a question while we're looking at it. So Lady Vic, when she jumps out of the plane without a parachute to go catch Dinah, who has a parachute, I thought that was amazingly cool. I'm like, there's a crazy, crazy villain that I adore for being willing to do that. That was nuts.
And just be insane about it. Yeah, I know. And basically I had the same reaction of Dinah, are you mad? Just jumping after her and I guess willing to get the job done, even if it costs her her own life. But I guess perhaps she would kill Dinah and then steal her.
She'd have to reach her, though. I mean, if she didn't succeed in reaching her,
right, You're right. But yeah, it was an interesting Fast and the Furious style stunt.
Yeah. So I remember what I was going to ask. So, all right. So Blockbuster, it's all about get Oracle, get Oracle, right? He's got to stop her. And then at the very end, he doesn't immediately, he's not as killy as I expected him to be. You get into the story, you're expecting him to totally just shoot her through the head when he's captured Dinah thinking she's Oracle. Yeah. And I've read ahead, so I know where the story's going. And it's sort of surprising because in this story, you really get the sense, and maybe I'd have to reread it thinking this, but you really get the sense he wants Oracle dead.
Yeah, and that he's enough of, what do you call him, a tripwire that it instantaneous once he's got, and then he would rethink oh, maybe I shouldn't have been so hasty. But
right,
yeah, he doesn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not spoiling too much. I mean, basically he captures Oracle, but suddenly changes modes where he's captured because he wants her for a mission, which is what the next set of stories will be about. So it's just sort of weird because you don't get that vibe as you're reading it. Yeah. So that did throw me at the very end where you're like, I thought he was okay. He's going to do something different. All right, whatever.
Yeah, it's a bit of a 180 because I mean, she has been siphoning funds off and frustrating him at every turn. So you think there'd be some sort of revenge, or at least give me my money back.
Yeah, right. So I have a question for you with this. So Blockbuster with the sickness and things like that. Yeah. That's really interesting. Has that been going on for a while now? Because I haven't been I haven't been keeping pace with it
since the beginning, anyways. Yeah, and his mom who's in a wheelchair will often say, "Roland, be careful of your heart." So it is, right. Yeah. And doctors visit him and stuff. So whenever you see him, there's some sort of indication that he is not well.
Birds of Prey is up to issue 20, so they've been keeping that going for a long time. That's really good. Okay. Yeah. All right. Now, by the way, Robin is I looked at this because, Robin appears in this, but it doesn't cross over into his book, which I found kind of interesting because, Chuck Dixon's writing all 3. Yeah. Robin was on issue 78 at this point, which just blows my mind, that Robin, out of all these characters, was the most popular one. Because his book had been around for so long, was doing great, and it's just kind of surprising. But so I love that Tim Drake did appear in it, so that made me happy. Yeah. So let me ask you. So I have a question for you, big picture kind of question here. You always ask, you always ask every story at the end, was this a Babs story? Because this story happened without Babs. I'm gonna ask you a different question. Was there any reason for Nightwing to be in this story?
I think it would have been fine without Nightwing, and perhaps really focusing on this relationship that we've been developing between Barbara and Dinah, I think would have actually perhaps strengthened the story. I think the reason why they did Nightwing is because I think the romantic aspect potentially, and really, putting people in danger that Barbara is close with. So you've got sort of her BFF and then her almost boyfriend. So, but in the end, no, he didn't really need to be in. Yeah,
the only thing that happened out of this was they stole the tracking computer out of his car. Yep. He had a bunch of fights, which were fun and entertaining and interesting. But they didn't do anything for the Oracle story. He doesn't actually see Oracle till the last couple panels of the book, and so it really seems completely unnecessary. It's almost like 2 completely different stories going on, and it's not. I don't mean that in a bad way though, because the whole thing is entertaining as hell. Oh, of course. I said it before. It's really like a summer blockbuster. It's just so action oriented, so much fun, lots of crazy stuff going on. But yeah, you could absolutely lift all the Nightwing stuff out of this completely, and it'd be fine. It's almost like filler, but it also pads it out to make it a better blockbuster event because you get 4 issues out of it, and it still only takes 2 months, which is nice. Yeah. So yeah. But I did notice that as reading it. Yeah,
and it brings people in that she's at least been dealing with. Nightwing has been present he's been popping up in Birds of Prey little by little, and he does express his concern for Barbara. And then Tim had just helped her wire up the clock tower, and he was just another one. So at least it brings some more of her teammates in. But it is and should have been perhaps more Dinah and Babs focused.
Yeah. So what was the greatest moment in this for you?
In this particular part 1?
I'm sorry.
I know you keep going, and I'm I'm trying to get to part 2.
Well, then let's do that. I'm sorry. I'm all over the board.
That is okay.
Again, the Nightwing stuff, I almost we can ignore it because I freaking hate Tad.
Oh, okay. That's one of my questions. Is any thoughts on Tad?
Because I read the Nightwing book. I couldn't stand Tad. I got what Chuck Dixon was doing. He's basically trying to show Nightwing what would have happened, or what would another kind of vigilante happen. And that's what the whole point of it is, a vigilante gone wrong. And that's what Tad is demonstrating. But I guess Chuck Dixon did his job. He made me hate the character. And so he always irritated me when he showed up. And so here, Tad completely crosses the line and murders a dude. Yep. Now, Tad's all oh, well, I didn't know he's a federal agent. It doesn't matter if he's a federal agent or not. You don't kill people. Yeah. So, so it just... And he just gets under my skin, as he probably is supposed to.
Yeah, he's kind of, I guess, a Guy Gardner and a Nightwing.
Yeah, he's supposed to irritate you.
Yeah. I don't understand how Nightwing doesn't catch on more quickly that Tad is bad news, though.
I think it's one of those where when you have – it's sort of like you and Josh. When you have a friend that is just a hot mess and you're trying to help them and you constantly have faith that they're going to come around and make things right, and they just keep letting you down time after time, just exactly like Josh does for you. I mean, that's what you tell me at least.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, so Josh and Ted are the same person.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm looking forward.
Josh doesn't listen to your show anyway, so he won't hear any of this.
That is correct. I don't know. I think he has probably dropped me. He's only when wants to come on, then he gets interested and re-listens.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think. Well, I'm just surprised that Nightwing hasn't caught on to it. And then he, in the beginning when they first had Tad, because I've actually been reading Nightwing, even if Babs is in it, and I try to sort of keep real time with it and everything. And he seemed very bad in the beginning, and now he...
For the butt shots, right?
Yes, that's correct. And then, so he seemed very bad in the beginning, and then it seemed like he evened out, but then he has these manic moments, but...
Has Tarantula? Is that her name?
Oh.
Tarantula? Has she shown up in those issues yet?
Not yet.
Whew, there's a whole other hot mess there. Oof, oh my goodness.
Well, because it's still Chuck Dixon. I think that was Devin Grayson's baby.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
What do you think about that poor squirrel? Should it be dead?
No, well, I mean, the Blockbuster had it in a squeezed position, so yes, it should have died, but I don't want it to. Do you see how he has
And
like
he
his
got
little paw up afterwards? Yeah, he did get electrocuted, didn't he? That poor squirrel.
Oh, God, poor Goober.
I loved Goober.
Yeah.
He was adorbs.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me of Lenny from Mice and Men when Blockbuster had that little squirrel in his hand.
Aww. Makes me sad. Yeah. Which issue was that? Was that the first issue or the second issue?
The second issue is the squeezing.
So we're on to the second issue. Okay.
And then, I think the third one, there was the electrocution, and then in the fourth part, there was something else that happened.
I think the electrocution would have been, well, either way, it doesn't matter. But yeah, the poor squirrel's been through a lot. Absolutely. I do think he's adorable. And again, after the squeezing, if I remember right, there's a panel here where the squirrel's like trying to, like, I thought, okay, maybe not. All right, somewhere in here, the squirrel gets hurt, and then like there's in the next panel, the squirrel like kind of like putting its hand up to his face, like enough.
Oh,
so poor Goober.
I'll have to see if I can find that as we go.
That's okay.
Cisco Blaine, do you have any thoughts on this guy or the reveal?
Well, I haven't been reading it in real time, so so that's a problem. But the impact there is he was kind of Blockbuster's right-hand guy.
Yeah.
So you think that this is the worst of the worst dude, and Blockbuster basically says, "Go kill them." And when he shows up and he kills the torturers instead, and says federal agent, that would have been a huge stunner if I had been reading Nightwing along with it. So it's a great reveal for something I didn't remember.
It was shocking to me.
Okay, so
I would agree.
So you've been doing the reread. Did you care enough about this character? Had they introduced him enough for you to care?
No, I think
really?
It was just. I mean, it almost seemed plot convenient to because otherwise, how would? But Don doesn't like when I say that because he says it's a cynical view. But how else was Nightwing about to get out of what had happened if that guy didn't come and help him out?
Right.
But, I mean, I guess now he's dead, so, unless he's not, I don't remember, so I guess we'll see.
Well, Tad said he killed him, so,
That is true, unless Tad's dumb and didn't know. Okay, we're moving on to the third part. Oh!
This could be mutually exclusive, but anyway.
The minivan. Why does Bruce Wayne have a minivan that is not with weapons and such?
Alfred drives it. That's what Alfred drives.
I know, but Bruce bought it.
But it's not the Bat van.
Okay.
It's Alfred's grocery getter, because if you read the Robin series, Alfred's constantly driving Tim around or picking him up when there's trouble, especially in the early days before Robin gets the Redbird. He's drives Tim to places or picks him up or whatever. So he's got a fleet of regular cars as well that Batman doesn't take into action. So this is, again, what I imagine Alfred goes to the grocery store in kind of thing.
Okay. That answers that question. Do you think it was realistic how quickly Tim and Alfred got to Dick, since Dick basically just called Tim right before the fight with Grimm?
No, it's not realistic at all. Especially since I don't think all he said was like, Oracle's in trouble or something like that. It was very vague. Yeah. So no, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Especially, wherever they are, unless they're out in the middle of nowhere. So yeah, them getting there very quickly doesn't make a lot of sense. No, but I do want to say something just about Tim in general.
Sure.
You talked about Tim before when he was in the issue 19 or whatever it is. For me, the way part of the reason I love Tim in this book is Tim's the best Robin, by the way, was that for Tim, Dick Grayson was like his brother. Mm-hmm. It really was. They were brothers. And I know Damien's got a relationship with the Dick as well, but it was just a simple copycat of the Tim relationship. And
it's weird how you phrase that. You said with the Dick as well. Did you do that on purpose?
No, thank you for taking us there. Anyway, so... But Tim also has a relationship with Babs, and that's the beauty of it. Babs, like where Dick is his older brother, Babs is, it depends how you want to look at it, either his older sister or his sister-in-law. Is kind of maybe even more sister-in-law is correct, because he doesn't hang out with Babs as often. Sure. But yeah, I think he loves her like family. He sees her as an older role model. And especially in the computer realm, because, Tim started off as a computer kind of guy. That was kind of his shtick, detective work. So I've always loved the relationship between Tim and Babs and how it's an extension of his relationship with Dick. But to answer your question, no, him and Alfred should not have got there in time. But it's comics, so you just accept it. Okay.
Sounds good. But an excuse that still frustrates me. So this part, actually, there's a huge thing that happens that I guess it's not huge, but I feel like it's a pretty emotional beat. This is Nightwing, number 46, of course, is at her computer, typing, and this is what it says. So it says, and the first person is, of course, Dick. So it says, to Dick, Bruce, and whoever Robin is these days.
Yep.
From Barbara. This is being emailed to you automatically. If I've gone 24 hours without logging on, if you're reading this, then the worst has happened. You'll need to access my main files for all the data I've collected over the years. Use it to carry on my work. My father has a list of passwords and codes you'll need. They're written on the back of the framed picture of me on his desk at police headquarters. I guess this is my last will and testament, huh? Keep up the good fight, guys. Love, Babs. And then she has a smiley face and a little percentage sign, which I assume is kind of like a wheelchair.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Interesting. Oh, yeah.
I assume so, that's the little thing. So this is, and then she does get a little teary-eyed afterwards because, I think it's just a great image of her. You have, right, I mean, it's a great 4-panel sequence, but right above you've got her hands on the keyboards, and then you just have her lonely figure in the wheelchair and her head is bent down. And then later on, Donna pops in and she says, do you have a cold or something? So it's she was crying. But what are your thoughts on this last will and testament and what she says in particular?
It's powerful. It's sad. It does, I think it's necessary. It kind of gives you the weight of how much Oracle's considering the situation. She's been through a lot of hell over the years, but for the most part, Oracle's been a desk job. It's the person in the field who's always in danger. Very rarely is Babs herself in danger.
Right.
And so this is one of the few rare occasions where the danger has come to her. And so it's not even one of these where she has to defend the clock tower. She is on the run. And so this is probably the worst it's been for her so far. I mean, she's had Neuron in her clock tower. She's had all kinds of stuff she's dealt with. But here she's hiding and they're closing in on her, and she knows they are. So I think her writing a will and testament at this point is probably the logical thing to do.
Absolutely. I find it, I can only imagine what all that data would be, right? Starting with when she was in Suicide Squad and helping all those. But I just love the fact that it's not a weepy, this is what you've meant to me over all, the years. I think they get that sense from even being told this, right? And they were in the short list because I guess she didn't write her father.
Right.
But the fact is, she puts the job and the duty first and foremost. I'm like, yeah, that's Barbara.
I love
that fight.
I agree completely with what you said. And I will say, as far as the father part goes, I love that all the passwords are at her dad's office. That's so sweet.
But it's also bad. Like, how do you have to get in there and say your daughter passed away in order to get the passwords? And she was Oracle, and she wants us to carry on the fight. So that would be an awkward conversation.
Well, do you think Dad knows the passwords are there? Is it like, hey,
That's
Dad,
a good question. Protect these,
I want you to hang out on my passwords, or does she just slip in, every 6 weeks when she updates all her passwords and tape a new thing to the back of his mirror, his photo?
That's an interesting question.
I think he knows. But not that she's Oracle, but just she says, Dad, hey, I want you to hang on to these in case anything happens to me to be able to access all my stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good thought. Okay, so then we get to the part 4 here.
Well, in part 3, I already mentioned it, but the parachute moment is so great.
Parachute. Yeah, which is right next to the last Will and Testament moment, too.
When it's all illustrated by Greg Land, too, so it looks great. Mm-hmm. Dinah is just sexy as hell as she's doing all this. The Lady Vic looks sexy, and they're just kicking ass against each other, fighting as they're falling out of the sky. It's awesome. So, I had to throw the sexy part in there, sorry.
Well, I'm glad you did it.
I'm on type.
Okay. Are we ready now, part 4?
Hold on. Am I wrong, though? Are the ladies beautiful? Am I wrong?
Oh, no, of course not.
Okay.
Of course you are not wrong.
Yes.
Yes, they are. Yeah. I mean, there are times when the artist is drawing some crazy poses for Dinah, but she's generally attractive.
Yep. All of them are. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with a woman being beautiful and sexy and also being brilliant and a total ass kicker. So it's okay if you have all that in the comic book. It's okay if they accentuate the beautiful as long as they make her a well-rounded, realistic character as well.
Agreed.
Okay,
part 4?
Yep.
Okay. What do you think makes the Navy shipyard or the derelict sub such an ideal location for Oracle to hide out as a last stand?
I guess I hadn't thought about that. So are you implying there's a symbolism there? Or are you just saying...
I just wonder, why do you think she chose that location? Because clearly she had an end game in mind, because it was already... we are seeing that she is doing some maintenance on it throughout, but I feel like she couldn't have done everything by the time they got there. So it seems like she had this plan. So I just wonder why do you think she would have chosen that place if it all went to hell?
Well, a submarine, if she's been slowly upgrading it or whatever, would make a great mobile base. You know, if you have another no man's land or something like that.
Oh, true.
Moving out into the water, underwater, submerged, and still being able to operate as Oracle would be a fantastic way to stay safe. Because who's going to look out, in the middle of Gotham Harbor or wherever she might hide, in trying to think, underwater? Because no one ever thinks about people hiding underwater. It's just not something we're programmed to think. We're surface dwellers, as a species, and so we don't typically think about what's under the water, except for Jaws. So it'd be a great place to hide out.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you there. It seems like maybe there's a lot available to her, like she could really somehow Frankenstein it to suit her own purposes.
Well, it's high tech already to start with, yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think realistically about how well someone who did not have the use of their legs could get around. I think potentially that's why she wanted it flooded, because that would help her to a certain extent, because she'd be floating and then she could reach up and do different things. But to get down in there and then move around, I feel like would be difficult. I've been in a sub.
Well, they're very, very, very tight spaces.
Yeah.
And very, very narrow, which means she would probably have handholds all over the place.
That's true.
So that I've been in a couple submarines myself, just not when they were out at sea, but just like museum type stuff. And it's very cramped. So there would always be something for her to grab on, where both her hands could hold on to something, I would think. So, maybe that's part of it, because also she knew she could hide in various places too. Yeah. I don't know. Or maybe Chuck Dixon just wanted to do a submarine.
I think, and it seems far enough away from people that, again, having other people's best interests, I think, trying to attract attention or get Gotham into more trouble. So she's able to, I think, separate or at least cordon off the action in one area that's a little farther away.
Good thought. Yeah, good point.
What do you think about the outfit and tech of Barbara?
Oh, it looks great. I was commenting earlier when we were looking at the cover. I think the way she straps her legs together, the tech. I love the arm computer she tacks on. They draw it a little sexy because it's zipped down pretty far, and it's all around. It's an all win, and I like the purple. It's almost like a nod to her Batgirl days by making it purple.
Yeah, and dark. So I think it's got that stealth. And I couldn't tell if it's interesting you call it purple. I think it depends. I don't know.
Oh, you're right. Is the cover purple? Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
And I wonder
it's purple on the cover, but inside like it's more of a darker blue.
Yeah, darker blue, which feels like, echoes, which, number one, you want it to be dark because you're doing stealth, but number two, it also feels like there's a connection very tangibly to Black Canary, and that, because it seems like the same tone, especially when you see them together.
I'm thinking Batgirl, not Black Canary. I'm thinking it's an echo of Batgirl.
I agree. But also Black Canary has the same color in her besides the yellow.
I think you're reaching.
But when they're cradling each other, they have basically the same color.
You're not wrong. I'm not
saying she modeled it after her. I'm just saying it's nice because it's like there's this connection.
I thought you were saying like the artist decided to make it blue to complement Black Canaries, whereas I'm saying the artist chose to make it blue because of the connection to Batgirl, and we're wasting way too much time in this argument.
Yeah. But no, I agree with you because even with how she takes down the perps on the inside is very Batgirl / Batman-esque, just like kind of knocking them out and then scurrying back up to the roof. So I think the action is really well done with her.
Oh yeah. So I love, especially the Eskrima sticks and just the whole combination of using the water, and then when she thinks it's too late, thinks it's gone too far and she's going to drown. Yeah. She has to swim out of there. That's very powerful. Yeah, it's an all around win. I'm running out of superlatives to say of how much I enjoy it. I guess.
I know. Speaking of the swimming, it number one reminded me of the Poseidon Adventure, which I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Oh yeah.
The old school one is like that preferably to the. I probably have seen the new one, but the old school.
I have not seen the new one.
And they because she says like, "Oh, it'll take you 10 minutes tops," and you're like, "Babs, you're not gonna make it." But it reminds me of the overweight woman who is like a star swimmer, and she's the one who is able to swim to get to a thing to help them out.
Oh, okay.
And then she dies afterwards. Do you remember that scene?
Oh yeah. Well, specifically, I don't know if I remember all the details in it, but yes, I remember the gist of it, yeah.
Okay, and then it also so there's part one, and then it also reminds me of The World Is Not Enough, that James Bond, because I think I think her name was Christmas, maybe, or Doctor, I think so. Denise Richards.
Yes.
They used the torpedo tube to shoot out, and I'm pretty sure that's what she used to get out of there.
Oh, you think she went through a torpedo tube?
I believe so. Because if you look behind her, there are the torpedoes, and it looks like it's shooting her out because she's able to get to the surface more quickly.
You're right. There's a big rush of water. I didn't notice that. Okay. Very clever. It's almost like you were paying attention like you had to talk about it on a podcast or something. I did not pick up on that. Yeah. Okay.
Final question is, why do you think Dinah pulled, as I call it, a Spartacus at the end?
To save Barbara. I mean, I don't think there's anything complex or deep to it. I think she knew that whoever came out was going to get gunned down, and so she said, it's going to be me. Do you think differently?
No, I do not. And I think she realizes, even though she's only had dealings with Barbara, and I think she doesn't know the extent, the true extent of the network, I think that she surmises how important Oracle is. And so I think it's a big moment. And I think, besides them cradling each other, it's one of my favorite moments here because what a huge thing to do for someone you just met. And I think it just points so much to actually how much their relationship has developed and how much they care for each other, even though they've only been talking to each other through a pair of earrings and a necklace.
Well, I think she absolutely must know how big Oracle is. I mean, think about it. Oracle's already been helping the Justice League.
Yep.
And even though Dinah's not on the team at this point, Connor is, and I'm sure she stays in touch with Connor.
Okay.
And I'm sure she knows that Oracle's contribution to all of that. I mean, when you and I covered Blackest Night, it was or Final Night. I mean, when we covered Final Night, that all the people were involved there. I think she absolutely knew how important Babs was to everything.
And so, and knowing that she can call Power Girl, and then at one point she called Superman, I think you're like, oh, who is this woman that she has all these deep connections? So, but I think that was a great moment. That I'm Oracle.
But I would think that rather than I have to save her because of how important she is, she did it out of love for her friend.
Right. Yep. And then how tragic at the end, of course. There's a bit of a shipper moment, of course, with Nightwing holding Barbara. But then, she's also tearing up and saying, oh, my God, what have I done, that they have.
Yeah.
So, big.
And then the final thing, to be continued, Birds of Prey, and you see the Oracle mask shatter.
Right.
It's just like, oh.
It's about to go down.
And then the story takes a whole right turn, which is different. You don't get what you would have expected next. They're good stories, but it's not what you're expecting at this point.
I did want to, if it's okay with you, read some stuff from the letter page.
Sure, go ahead.
Actually,
I was reading it digital, so I don't have it in front of me. I was reading the version on DC Universe app.
Gorfinkel, Dixon, and Illage all wrote in basically to say, to talk about the fact that Dinah and Barbara have finally met. So it wasn't
that's wonderful.
Fan, but they want to do that. So first we have it from Gorfinkel. He says it's finally happened. Babs and Dinah have met in person. Consider the first time two women hug. This is the culmination to date of a mainstream superhero series. Who would have thunk it? For that matter, who would have predicted the success of a team composed of superheroes who never interact in person, who didn't set out to investigate this dynamic? In the context of creating action/intrigue stories, the kind you expect from the Birds of Prey superhero team, it developed and we ran with it. Babs and Dinah didn't meet in the very first Birds of Prey special simply because such a meeting wasn't on the spine. In quotations. In other words, tangential to the main plot. So he put it off and kept putting it off until their impersonal meeting grew to the status of a major plot development. I should note that Chuck Dixon wrote the meeting at least once before this issue. As editor, I even commissioned a Gary Frank cover that depicted Babs and Dinah hugging amid carnage. It was fully prepared for publication. We opted to save the moment until now. Who would have thunk two comic heroes? Who would have thunk two comics heroes hugging would be this big a deal? We at DC, that's who. The Birds of Prey have always been depicted and treated as real. The result is that while the action is terrific, what hooks us in is the evidence. Nope. What is this? Okay, it's the microphone in front of my eyes. The result is that while the action is terrific, what hooks us is the characters whom we love. Evidence, there's an online campaign for Oracle for U.S. president.
Oh my gosh.
This is 2000, that's funny. Who was that?
Well, that's when George. Luthor won.
Oh.
Lex Luthor won, though.
Oh, okay.
So I wonder if that was part of the impetus was someone said, they did the Luthor for President story, so someone was like, no, Oracle instead. Oracle, but yes, you're right. George W. did win, yes.
Okay, well, I wasn't sure if they meant it real time or...
Either way, I just know the state of Florida screwed it all up. So.
Oh, interesting. Thus closes a unique chapter in comics history, but don't stop now. There's a whole new dimension to explore now that the birds can get together. Who's with me? Bird remains a word. And then we have Dixon.
Bird remains the word.
That's what he always says that.
Right.
And then he does the MTGGLF. From the first Birds of Prey special several years ago, Jordan and I realized that the relationship between Barbara Gordon and Dinah Lance would be an unusual one. They were a team, but they were never together. They would form a bond over a satellite link and never physically be in the same place at the same time. While Barbara knew all she needed to know about Dinah, to Dinah her contact was just a voice over a very special pair of earrings. But we also realized we were setting up a great dramatic high point for the girls. When they finally did meet, it had to be a big deal. We toyed with playing this out in one of the specials. Then we decided to hold off until Birds of Prey got its own series. The story you hold in your hands, the conclusion of a 4-part crossover with Nightwing, is that big deal story. In my opinion, we waited just the right amount of time. You BOP readers are a loyal bunch and patient. You waited until we fully developed the role these women play in each other's lives. You waited while we hinted at a prior meeting between our heroines and even a prior partner for Oracle. You waited and held your reservations to yourself, for the most part, until events in the book demanded that Black Canary and the former Batgirl get together and finally meet. I'm hoping you're patient enough with us to see what comes next. After all, the girls met, but they didn't exactly get to spend quality time together. If Dinah lives through the events of the next 3 issues, she and Babs will have a lot of talking to do. I promise it'll still be worth the wait. Was that it? That was Chuck, yep. And then finally, Joseph Illage says, I think one of the coolest and potentially most frustrating things for a comic-buying fan is the subplot. If it pays off, then that's cool. But if it drags on at a snail's pace with no reward for the reader at the end, then that's just highway robbery. Jordan B. Gorfinkel, he'll kill me if I forget his middle initial, and Chuck Dixon always knew that the meeting of the birds would have to happen, but the best dramas play out at natural pace, so the payoff is neither rushed nor unsatisfying. I hope you'll agree that we managed to pull it off well in these pages. I am honored to have steered the boat the rest of the way to this event, and it couldn't have happened to 2 cooler characters or for cooler fans. You stuck it out with a leap of faith, and now you can stop pulling your hair out. Then again, I guess we still have to deal with that little matter about the love affair between Barbara Gordon and Dick Grayson. Hope you guys and gals are ready for the next journey. I know I am. So that was super exciting for them to come in and see. So they've been with us, and it's something that they've thought about. So high drama indeed.
Well, I'm glad that they put all the thought and effort into it. I'm glad that they actually considered it once before and decided to do it right, which is fantastic. And, hearing you read those pieces, it sort of made me realize, the voices over the radio kind of thing, talking to each other, getting to know each other, and finally meeting face to face. It's a little bit like podcasters.
It is.
And I think the moment between Dinah and Babs was very similar to when you and I finally met face to face. I mean, I remember that moment distinctly in Barnes & Noble where I reached down and pulled you out of the water and helped you up, and you'd been shot. And it was, it's almost exactly the same.
And I sprayed you in the face with mace because you didn't have my consent.
That's absolutely correct. Yes, that is true. All true stories.
That's actually, I haven't really pinpointed, but that is absolutely true. Because a lot of times we might not actually know what each other looks like, and then how we have personas that we have on air. And so if you get along on air, are you actually going to get along in person? So that's a true little connection there. Well done, sir.
And we both have been fortunate enough to meet a lot of the various podcasters over the years. And it's always very exciting.
Along with the majority of them.
I mean, as far as you know, yeah. I mean, they talked to me about it, and they like, why is Stella like this? I don't understand kind of conversations.
But I mean, I go to Boston. I was trying to be nice to people so they would not have to put up with me.
Tell you, it was a disappointment. Boston wasn't, we enjoyed your company in North Carolina for HeroesCon. The next year we enjoyed your company in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
And
made
then
you run in Baltimore. Could have made you run in Boston.
I would have run.
And could have run with us.
Don't drag him into all this. You're just baiting the poor man.
It's true. Okay, well, to round out, this particular story, would you say you've read the entire run of Birds of Prey, is that correct?
There were towards the end I didn't finish. So even though Gail's run is phenomenal, I eventually life got in the way. I did miss some of the end of it this run, but
would you say
but up to issue 100 or whatever, yeah. Okay.
Would you say that this is one of the best Birds of Prey stories?
For me, yeah, this was a huge highlight, especially of Chuck Dixon's run. Chuck has his high points, Gail has her high points, and as far as Dixon goes, this is one of the highest points, Dixon. And I'm struggling to come up with a more high point actually off the top of my head, other than their first few adventures together. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is the highest point. I mean, not that everything's downhill, but I think this is the big moment for Dixon's run.
Yeah. I mean, number 8 for me is a huge...
Oh, that's a great one.
I know, it's very, very big for me, but I think up to what I've done, I think because it's just so much anticipation is built that's like, oh, it's finally here. And then there's a cliffhanger because they can't spend any quality time together. So it's huge, and I think it's really well known as well. So I was very much looking forward to getting to this finally.
It's summer blockbuster. It's 1996, so it's like watching Armageddon. It's oh, that's right. 96 is when the series started. I'm sorry, 2000. Okay, so the Armageddon reference is completely wasted. Anyway, it is a great big summer blockbuster though, and it's wonderful.
How does it feel to be woman-splained? I've done it a couple times to you.
Well, before there was even a term, women have been doing it to my whole life, and men, because I'm stupid, so I make a lot of mistakes.
That's okay.
See, what I should have said was, well, actually, Stella, people have been doing it. See, then I would have been mansplaining to you
to me
that it's been happening to my whole life.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, what grade would you give this out of 10? What should we say? Hugs? Squirrels. 10 squirrels. Okay.
This is absolutely. Are we doing each individual issue, or are we doing it collectively?
Story as a whole, I think.
Yeah, it's 10 squirrels. Absolutely, 10 electrified squirrels. Absolutely.
10 electrified squirrels. I'm thinking here. It's because I'm going back and forth between either a 9.5 or a 10.
Okay, think about what you. Okay, do it on a comparative scale. Okay. Think about what you rated as 9s and 10s recently, and then tell me if this is not as good.
That is also true because I've had. I mean, there have been some. Because I did the harem episode. I think I gave a really high grade to.
You did.
So you're right. It probably does have to be a 10, quite honestly. Especially for the payoff there, and we both agree that it's a lot of action and run and gunning kind of thing, but I think it works well, and yeah.
A question just occurred to me, so I'll throw it at you.
Sure.
So the big culmination is them hugging.
Yeah.
But it's written by men.
Yeah.
So is there a sexist element to this that, the guys are writing the girls and their big climax is they hug. So is that, I love the moment.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I'm only so much in touch with my feelings. So I'm not very woke. So tell me, is it actually the wrong move to have them hug? Should they have, I don't know, fist bumped instead or whatever? Did they do it wrong?
So I don't think so. I will say number one, just because I don't know him, but because I've spoken with Chuck Dixon, and I respect him as a writer and a person, and I think that he really cares about these characters, that he had only good intentions for it, and I think he was looking for that huge build-up in the emotional, what would this look like for these two women? So I would say no in that perspective, looking at who Chuck Dixon is. And also because it's not like they're both, reaching around, like actually hugging out of context.
Yeah.
It's more like Dinah is cradling her because she's injured and she just pulled her out of the water, and Babs is exhausted, that it's more of like an action hug, and it works really well because it's not out of context. It's like, I'm cradling you. There's absolutely a person-to-person contact, but it's not like, we're finally meeting here and there are bombs exploding behind us. So I will say no for those various reasons.
Okay, cool. Good. Because I love the moment, and I would be sad if it was poorly executed.
Okay.
Great. This was super fun. Thank you so much for having me, and I only waited 15 years to do it, and it was all worth it. So thank you.
Well, technically, starting in the 60s, you waited even longer.
The comic was only published 19 years ago.
Yeah, but I mean, the all the comics that I've been doing.
I wasn't alive in the 60s. Thank you very much.
Okay, my gosh. Okay, well, before you go, there's a questionnaire to see how you do. I know. In regards to, do you actually merit even being thought about, considered as a co-host? So here we go. Are you ready for this?
I am dreading this. I have no idea what's about to happen, ladies and gentlemen.
I know at the beginning of the show, I said, there's going to be a quiz for you at the end. He's like, yep, I've already got my answers. I'm like, what do you mean? It's the same quiz Tom took. No, that was not the quiz. So he was super pumped, and here we go. Okay.
Now I'm
dreading.
There
are 10 questions. Are you ready?
10?
10, yeah.
The answer of all of them is Shag.
It's, in your professional opinion, is Batman a jerk?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever, or do you consistently mansplain?
Potentially. Well, actually, potentially unknowing, but not from a point of I'm a dude and I'm always right, but probably from a parent who is constantly teaching his child, or a manager who has had to teach his employees how to do stuff. So if so, unintentionally.
Okay.
But I'm also not so full of myself to go, there's no way, man. It's possible.
Sure.
Yeah.
The examples you gave, though, would not technically be mansplaining because it assumes that the person you're mansplaining to actually has more knowledge than you, but you're asserting. But so if you're talking to your child probably would
actually,
not have.
What I meant, though, was after doing this with my child and my employees for so many years, it's quite possible I step into it accidentally with someone I shouldn't.
I see.
Well, actually.
Okay. Well, actually, thank you. Is there a feminist agenda?
It's a vague question. I think it depends on the person. I think everyone's politics are different. I don't think I can say, is there a feminist agenda? But I think I could say there are certain individuals that take any agenda too far.
Okay.
Is that fair to say?
Well, this is your quiz. I'll be great later.
I don't know. I guess what ultimately I'm saying is there are fanatics and people over the line on every issue.
That is true. What is your current consumption of coffee per day?
0.
Lovely.
I don't drink coffee. I do drink tea and soda.
Does Carolyn Coca indeed know? I'll put that as a question mark.
Yeah, put that as a question.
Shipping or no shipping?
Shipping, absolutely.
Oh, lovely. Peaches or no peaches?
Peaches.
Oh, lovely. Thoughts on Dana Sterling's use of the shower?
I don't watch any anime, so I don't know. I don't even know what anime it's from. But I do like that Dr. Ange has figured out exactly what annoys you and is using that to highly effective use on Twitter. So I guess my answer is a yes.
Oh, my. Wasn't really
just because it irritates my friend Stella.
Sure. Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, or Tom Holland?
Oh, I wish you hadn't asked me that. I love them all for different reasons, but I'm going to have to say Andrew Garfield.
Okay. And finally, Babs or Starfire?
Babs. Every day. All day long.
Lovely. I'm so glad to hear that. Okay, thank you.
So how did I do? What did I score?
I would say moderately well. I'd have to compare you with the Donovan.
Well, I think compare my quiz or compare me with Donovan. Because if you compare just me with Donovan, I'm going to win every time.
You're right.
If it's just a quiz, then yeah, he may. Yeah, okay. All right. And is this like the right answer or compares to Stella's answer?
Oh, of course. Stella's answers are the right answers.
Oh, I should have realized that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
Well, I guess you did at the end. You had some good ones. Well, we've come to the end of our time. As people may remember, Shag does not like to do the modern comics with me. So
total Yawnsville. I don't think you like to do the modern comics either, young lady.
I did recently confess that it's getting difficult to get excitement from it. So I hope it comes back. I don't go in with a negative attitude, but just like it's just hard now, which is hard to say, when your favorite character is like not necessarily bringing you joy or happiness.
My favorite characters are Aquaman and Firestorm. Yeah. So if you chart that history,
you've been there. Yeah.
All over the map. But you know what it is it's a combination of what's going on in your life and whether the stories are telling the same old story, again, that you've already read a million times at our age, or whether, because I mean, you're old, sweetie, or whether it's a direction you don't enjoy, or they're finally back on a track that you engage with. So sooner or later, every major character gets back to a point where you love them. Like right now, I'm not engaged with Aquaman. There's nothing wrong with the run, but it's nothing I haven't seen before. Firestorm doesn't even have a book. But I do know at some point both of those characters will do a run that I will really enjoy, and it'll happen again someday.
And I'm, the lovely thing about doing this podcast and the way that I organize it is that I'm really enjoying the Birds of Prey stuff and what Barbara's been doing. And, and I just started the Cassandra Cain title, so I'm really enjoying that. And so if I spend half of the episode loving it and the other half like meh, then I guess that's okay.
Yeah. Well, we've spent almost 2 hours talking about these things, so clearly we have a passion for them.
Indeed. Could you please tell the audience how they can support you and where else? Gosh, this is going to take 50 minutes. Where else they can find you?
The quickest place is to go over to the Fire and Water Podcast Network. We've got a whole plethora of shows over there, ranging from comic books to movies to television shows, just a lot of music, all kinds of pop culture things. I primarily hang out on the comic book shows, like shows about Aquaman and Firestorm, shows about Who's Who, shows about Justice League International, digest comics, role-playing games, stuff like that. It's a whole wide range of different comic book-related stuff I'm involved with. Again, that's all at the Fire and Water Podcast Network, and that's where you can find us.
And I'm looking forward to the Velvet Tiger episode when it comes out.
Of Who's Who?
Yes.
Then you should have turned on your iPod podcast catcher a while ago.
When did it roll? Well, I recently put on iTunes and I thought it would have downloaded, but...
That came out ages ago. Thanks for staying current on our shows. Really appreciate your support. That feels like friendship to me.
Last time I went on iTunes, do I have to resubscribe or something? It did not.
No, it came out. You're so full of it. You are so full of it. Full of it.
Okay, well,
I even tagged you on Facebook when we were prepping for that episode.
When you were prepping, but not when you posted it.
Are you kidding? We record so close to the wire. We usually record on Thursday and it comes out on Sunday. We do it by the skin of our teeth.
I had no idea. That would stress me out to no end.
So that episode came out back on July 7th.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll go.
Who's Who in the DC Universe? Who's Who in the DC Universe number 10.
Number 10. Okay. So
featuring Velvet Tiger.
I can't wait. Do you make mention of our experience? I do. Oh gosh. Do you say for more Velvet Tiger go to Batgirl the Oracle?
It's been a few months since I recorded it, but I'm pretty sure I do.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, she did reappear and everything, so
right. She appeared in more recent stuff. That's right.
Yeah, I'll have to write in. Well, I guess you've probably already recorded the next one, yeah?
Well, I'm just saying I take the time to listen to your stuff, but that's fine. You know what? We have a different kind. We have a different
I
kind
feel
of
like something happened. Maybe it's the iTunes crossover, and I have to go resubscribe or something.
Pretty sure it didn't.
Okay, but all that to say that I very much.
You were in Europe at that time. To be fair, I think.
Oh. Okay. Well, I'll check again.
Either way,
that I very much enjoy the Who's Who, so I do that. You are welcome. I just heard you thank me as I was talking over you. It was it's always fun to have you on, and I tried to find books for you to be on, so I'm glad that you were on for Birds of Prey.
I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed it. It was lots of fun and always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Thank you so much for realizing that I am the absolute best co-host for your show. And I just feel sorry for Josh and Don. So sorry, and Tom, of course.
Well,
but,
Tom was, I've got to do a Twitter thing.
Let's face it, right. Tom was never in the running.
Oh, but he had done all these JLAs with me.
Yeah, but that was just a pity thing for you, and that you did for him. I get it, but that's fine. Tom's a nice enough guy.
Goodbye.
He actually listens to your show, so that's why I feel like I can take shots at him and be mean.
That's true. I think he's behind, though, so he's going to find out 6 months later that you took shots at him.
Oh, well, that's okay. As long as I hurt his heart, that's fine with me.
Okay.
Fly on, Babs lovers.
Oh, my gosh. I can put that at the end. When I come back, I will be alone, and I will be reviewing Batgirl 91 or 39. But first, it's Zaius' Radio Hour, featuring Light My Fire. Well, welcome back and happy Outbreak Day. This is the day that the cordyceps fungus just got out of control and humanity fell. If you're a fan of The Last of Us, of course. And I certainly am, though it's the only survival horror game that I have ever and probably will ever play. And it's not for the faint of heart, and it's emotionally draining, but I did have that episode, a couple years ago, I suppose, where we talked about Last of Us, and they're finally putting out more details about The Last of Us 2, and release date is set for February, so they basically can take my money now. I just have to decide how much money I'm willing to shell out, because they have, I guess, like, games are now just these bigger and bigger options where you can get all these goodies and things like that. So I probably won't do everything, because the biggest one has like a backpack and decals and buttons, which I do love, and a statue of Ellie, and the game and art and all that. So I probably won't do that big one. I would, if I had enough money, I would probably get it, the one with the statue, but I think I'll probably just do like the almost middle one, which is still bare bones, but not just the game. So I think I get like an art thing, and maybe that's it. Maybe a digital thing for avatars or something. I don't know. So I'll get something, but it won't be bare bones, and it won't be the most extreme, which I guess if, number one, you have a lot of money, you can just do whatever you want, and number two, if this is your favorite game series ever, why not go all out? So, but I will not be doing that. But anyways, we're back here. Shag is no longer with us because he does not like to do Modern Tales with me, so it'll just be me. So I'm reviewing Batgirl 39, or like I like to say, Batgirl 91, which actually, this issue, in fact, lends credence to that. So this is Batgirl Oracle Rising Part 3. Writer Cecil Castellucci, artist Carmine Di Giandomenico, colorist Jordi Belair. Oracle runs fighting simulations over and over again with the terrible trio. They act like humans, of course, and it acts like a program, so their capabilities seem limited to Oracle. Oracle acts like an entitled brat, saying it deserves to know why Batgirl abandoned her, and is just going off of emotions, which apparently this robot does. Vulture later finds out that the other two did not input the fact that Batgirl once worked and resided in Burnside. Now the program changes. Oracle assigns the team coordinates, and they locate vans with bombs, or they place vans with bombs in certain areas. Then Oracle later blows them all as a signal to Batgirl, and it is a fiery blaze in Burnside in the shape of a bat. So while all this is going on, before that fiery bomb, Batgirl returns to the clock tower, post-Killer Moth fight, I suppose, and searches for the Oracle program, hoping it will help give her details on the person behind Killer Moth. She's disappointed and depressed when she realizes that that program really is gone, and we sort of reminisce about that history. Later at Congresswoman Alejo's office, Babs is out of it, and Alejo needs someone to go door to door in Burnside to do different tasks. Izzy is out and makes some sort of condescending comments about the town, and Babs is asked to go since she knows the area. Alejo tells her to leave her issues at home, cough cough, no empathy, and Jason offers to give her a ride. Jason attempts to mansplain Burnside, but Babs shuts him down, as she should, since she's actually lived there. They have lunch, Babs reminisces, and they talk to some locals. Frankie shows up for a quick cameo, and Jason's character may actually be okay. I mean, the dogs love him. That's a good indication, right, of a non-sociopath. In a romantic comedy trope, the two get caught in a sudden rainstorm and huddle under a bridge and have an almost moment. I guess Jason's eyes are nice? Back at her apartment, she sews up a new costume and calls her dad, who is apparently acting strangely, according to the editor in Batman Superman. She goes on a hero run and happens upon some elderly people shaking down Freddy the Frog for glitter and glue. At first, she thinks the situation is reversed and Freddy the Frog is doing the bad stuff, but it's not. Suddenly, Batgirl knows that Luther is behind the deal. When did that happen exactly? A shopkeeper gets violent and explains to her that Lex is making deals to practically everyone now, even Joe Schmo. She realizes that the citizens are just a distraction and there is something bigger going on, and everyone's basically in a lot of trouble. Next, the burning of Burnside. I actually really liked the art in this particular issue, which, I mean, it's been the same artist throughout, but I feel like Di Giandomenico it did really well in this one. I liked the scene under the bridge, however tropey it may have been. I thought that it was paced and laid out really well. There weren't many words. There didn't need to be words. And because there weren't words, you had to really show it. And the coloring and everything was really nice. I liked the burning of Burnside and just that map. I think more of the effect, right? The map, and then overlaid, you have all those fires. I also like the shadow memories of Babs' Batgirl in Burnside. I thought those were a nice touch throughout those different scenes. I spent about 5 minutes thinking about what mystery Babs is into. What is her current case? Until I remembered it was in fact the whole who is behind Killer Moth, which makes it even weirder when she already knows about the Luthor connection about 10 pages later. So it seems like she's going to the clock tower to rustle up Oracle. Maybe Oracle can help me. And then later on, she's like, well, Luthor's behind it. Of course it makes sense. So that's a disconnect. When did she actually find out that Luthor was the one behind? Unless I'm having a misconnection between 38 and 39. But I'm pretty sure that she only knew that there was someone behind Killer Moth, but didn't know that it was Luthor. So that seems... Please correct me if I'm wrong. I would love to. So be sure to hit me up. But bit of an issue there. The whole deal, in my opinion, this whole backstory here is actually getting in the way of the story, whatever the story is, which I can't even figure out right now. It just doesn't seem to work together. You know, the Killer Moth angle, I think, would have been a lot of fun, and to have these rogues go with her, and then you've got Oracle beside her, which that could be the ultimate one. And you have Lex, of course, with that. So you've got these two people, one her nemesis, the other one an actual alternate identity of her. But it just seems like this other stuff is going on, and we're trying to fill different spaces. And now, you know, Killer Moth is gone, and we're getting to emotional trauma of Barbara because she's lost Oracle. And it's just, I don't think it's, I almost wish we could not have been involved in this particular crossover storyline, and just brought back some of her rogues and had fun with it. But, you know, and she tried to talk to her dad, and that was like shoehorning, like, oh, well, we better catch up with Jim. But hey, Jim is he's doing some weird stuff in this other book. I mean, it seems like too much is being shoved in there to fit in with current DC continuity, when I'm all for continuity and fitting in somehow, but this seems like we're trying to fill in too much stuff. And what is the main story? Frankly, I don't know. Because you have the Congresswoman business as well, and Burnside and all of that stuff. Why is Barbara getting depressed about losing Oracle now? She's been without her for a while. Is it just because she really needed her, and now with, you know, at that time when she really needs it, man, she misses it? I mean, it's been gone for a little bit. She crushed the disc, so that was explained. So we are hearkening back to Batgirl and the Birds of Prey. But I still need a better explanation. We still need to know how she actually got a body. Was that a Barbara Gordon thing? Did it miraculously create a body in a 3D printer on its own? I don't know, and we need to know. Back to Burnside. Are you cussing kidding me? This is ridiculous. Let's do a greatest hits tour, shall we? We purposefully left Burnside, and now all of a sudden we're coming back. And not only are we coming back, but we actually have to reminisce about coming back. We actually have to have cameos about coming back. I mean, DC, if you're going to make a decision, you need to stick with that decision, not kind of waffle and decide, maybe the Gotham thing's not fitting, she needs to come to Burnside. You should have kept her in Burnside to begin with. So that was pretty ridiculous. The Jason and Babs moment is totally a trope, but I thought it was really well done. And, you know, I do like my romantic comedies or Nicholas Sparks films and things like that. The whole thing, though, this whole romance, right, it better be a slow burn. And I feel like it is right now. It is. You're starting to see her turn a little bit, right? Because if it goes quickly, like if there's a kiss in the next couple issues, I won't like it. I think it's got to be 4 or 5 issues until there's some sort of push. That's in my opinion. Because I know, you know, there's the tsundere or whatever in anime, and people hate each other oftentimes, and then it turns. But it's not a, you know, one day and then the next. I mean, she really despised him. He was pretty bad. He did some stuff to her father. I mean, that's some heavy stuff. And to go from there to a romance needs to be pretty slow. So I'm going to be watching out for what happens there. But I also feel like it's a romance that's doomed from the start, and very Spider-Man-like, because he doesn't like Batgirl, right? He was critiquing her before, which is actually annoying now that I think about it, because he critiqued her and said she was a menace before, aka, J. Jonah Jameson. But before, he was trying to, way before, the previous writer before, he was trying to be on her side. So there's another inconsistency. But I just feel like and I'm trying to think of what romance was it that the character, and I don't think it could be either Spider-Man or Batman, that they loved the one of them, but the other one frightened them or horrified them, or they hated the other. I can't remember which one that is, because I know there's the Black Cat, where Black Cat loved Spider-Man but did not like Peter Parker. But I feel there's one that I hate this alternate identity, but I love the other person. It's kind of like that, whatever one that I'm sure that's happened before. So I like that Oracle runs simulations. I think it makes sense. She's a computer program, and she attacks Batgirl with Burnside. That also makes logical sense. And the whole splash page with the simulation worked really well, and you could see all the allies, and that was a lot of fun. The Alejo stuff could be interesting, I think, if there wasn't such drama mixed in, like Barbara not being... Again, I'm really just wondering why Barbara even has a job. She's not even paying attention. She's a mopey dope. And then Alejo tells her to check her emotions at the door. I mean, that's her boss, so might as well. And thank you, Barbara, for fixing your costume so you don't have that weird costume you were wearing that random websites were pinging me because apparently she had a new costume. She didn't. It was just it was a Frankenstein job. It's a meh issue. There's some weird stuff, and make your decision and stick with it, DC. This is going to be a 7 out of 10 bats. Now over to Chris for his Cornucopia of Curiosities.
That's like rocking your best Halloween costume while having your favorite Halloween candy while listening to a great podcast. Thank you very much, Stella. Hello, Bat fans. Welcome once again to the Chris's Cornucopia of Curiosities segment. Thank you very much, listeners, for downloading. And as always, thank you for not fast-forwarding. My name is Chris, and I'm very glad to be with you. Today, I'm covering Batman Adventures number 24, and in the Night Watch segment, Nightwing number 64. Batman Adventures number 24 was cover dated September 1994 and was cover priced at $1.50. As per usual, we have the creative team of Kelly Puckett as the writer, Mike Parabek was the penciler, Rick Burchett was the inker, and Rick Taylor was the colorist. The Batman was created by Bob Kane with Bill Finger. This story was reprinted in the Batman Adventures Volume 3 and appears to be available on Comixology. I'm not sure if this is available on any of DC's online media services, and our story today is entitled Grave Obligations. Act 1, Brother's Keeper. In the opening 3 pages, Batman tries to thwart a masked jewelry store robber. After a quick battle and chase, the thief gets away. We smash cut to a building bedroom where it's revealed the masked person was Coyote Ken's sister Nayaku, who has a small candlelit shrine and photograph of her brother. She starts to recount her battle to him when suddenly 2 masked figures burst through a window and attack, throwing daggers at her. Naoka deflects the blades, makes quick work of her attackers, and puts the blade to one of their throats, demanding answers. One says he was sent by Furukawa-sama as a warning not to kill Batman as a vendetta, for if she does, she will be killed herself, and the honor of vengeance will go to Kano. She tells him to take his fallen companion out and leave. She pulls out a locket and looks at a photograph with her and Kano. Act 2, From Tokyo to Death. In the opening 3 pages of this chapter, Batman uses his fists to take out bank robbers in an alley. But when he turns to a GCPD car, one of the gang disappears. Smash cut to a contemplative and seated Bruce Wayne where Alfred brings him tea. Bruce wonders about the one that got away, being able to take so many of his blows. He gets an idea and writes a name on a slip of paper, giving it to Alfred and telling him to find their present location. Back in Nayako's bedroom, Kano pleads with her to end her vendetta against Batman and return home with him. She refuses. Kano tells her he loves her and leaves. Then, an unseen figure arrives at customs at Gotham International Airport. Act 3, Cancelled Debts. In the opening 3 pages of this chapter, Nayako cuts a line Batman is swinging on. He recovers and Kano arrives. They both take off their masks, revealing themselves to each other and to Batman. Batman tells Nayako he didn't kill her brother. Not believing him, they both attack Batman. Furukawa arrives and intervenes, putting an end to the fight. Batman tells him to cancel his debt to him by sparing their 2 lives. Furukawa agrees. Nayako asks Batman why he did it, and Batman tells her that they are not both that different. Back before a fireplace at Wayne Manor, Bruce looks at a photograph of Talia. The end. A few thoughts. I like it when this title deals with characters and or stories from the animated series. Coyote Ken appeared in the episodes Night of the Ninja and Day of the Samurai. I never thought he was dead in the final appearance of the series. However, according to online sources, quote, Bruce Timm has since admitted that they had no plans of bringing back Ken in later episodes, and wanted to make his death more explicit, which was shot down by censors who pressured him to make it more vague. Therefore, it is probably safe to say Coyote was killed. End quote. I did have a fondness for the character, and so did a couple of other writers from an old Batman RPG I was in. We used him in some stories, including a few out of continuity where he would try to get revenge on a young Bruce Wayne and also encounter a pre-Catwoman Selina Kyle. But I digress. Puckett uses a great economy of words. It felt like most of the text was not until the final chapter. He allows Parabeck to make the most of the fight scenes woven into the narrative, and he really shows off his talents here. A good back and forth with action and story progression. Bill Finger and Jerry Robinson get nice nods with a couple of street signs named after them. As a Selina Bruce Bat Cat shipper, I really felt deflated with Bruce looking at Talia's picture at the end of the issue, and had forgotten how much weight and impact Talia had in this title. I don't know how much of this had to do with the story overall, just to serve as a reminder, which for me had a negative effect on what overall was a superior story with excellent artwork. With that, I'm giving Batman Adventures number 24 8.5 out of 10 bats. Now, for everyone's favorite segment within a segment, Night Watch, where I look at the current issue of Nightwing from a shipper's perspective. At the time of this recording, Nightwing number 64 is the current issue. Picking up where we left off, we see William Cobb is at B's bar. Looters storm the place, Cobb changes into Talon, slices to death everyone within arm's reach, and captures B. After Rick Grayson takes an injured and stabbed Nightwing Zack to the hospital, he finds B tied to a rooftop air conditioning vent, and they are both confronted by Talon. To be continued. I don't want to spoil news I heard this past week with respect to Rick's character. Die-hard fans already likely know what it is, and it should not come as a shock. B is reduced to a damsel in distress role here, and if you're a fan of the character, you should wonder about the future of this character as seen here, coupled with the recent news going forward. The last issue had Rick and B share a kiss, but the storyline here provides no opportunity for any demonstrative romance. The issue ends on a cliffhanger, and we do have character interaction, such as it is. I will give Nightwing number 64 a lukewarm, lukewarm shipper alert. This concludes this edition of Night Watch. Listeners, don't forget you can hear Stella on the Required Reading podcast. I'd like to give a shout out to the Sutherlands. Be sure to check out Warlord Worlds, Tricker Talk, Xenozoic Xenophiles, Sensationalist Sleuths, Fantastic Fantasies, and the Convention Correspondence podcasts, all of which you can find on the Rad Adventures Network. Listeners, you can find me on Twitter at BTOMBatBooks. That's where I tweet out my weekend nightstand reads, sometimes old Batman comics, and occasionally a Saturday morning salute. Hope you give it a try and follow if you're not already following. The handle again is BTO and Batbooks, BTO as in Batgirl to Oracle, and Batbooks as in Batbooks for Beginners. That's a podcast that I co-host with Jerry where we examine and review trade paperbacks and collected material of Batman or related characters. You can also find us talking about independent comics, other titles, movies, and whatnot on the Professor Frenzy Show. Please check it out if you're not doing so already. Please feel free to leave any comments for myself on this segment or for the podcast on the TBU website, and please consider giving us a good review over on iTunes. If you'd like to lend your support to the Batman Universe website that has news, articles, editorials, and a fine family of podcasts, you can make a donation on Patreon or a one-time donation by PayPal by following the links on the Batman Universe website homepage. Thank you very much for your support. What contract does Bruce Wayne want, and will he get it? What spit-curled superhero teams up with Batman in the next issue? What terrible team-up of villains will confound our heroes? Don't fail to listen to the next podcast where the answers to these superbound, superlicious, super chic superlatives will supersede superbly next time. Same Stella feed, same Stella site.
Thanks, Chris. Next is my anime watch list, and I just watched a series. I actually watched it in August, but I've been distracted by watching True Detective. So this was actually recommended by M. Middleton a couple years ago, or maybe a year ago. Library Wars from 2008, 12 episodes. Toshokan Sensu tells the story of Kasahara Iku, the first woman to join the library task force. In the near future, in Japan, the media enhancement law has been forced upon the population, censoring all books and media. To counter this, the Library Defense Force was created. To protect themselves against the Media Enhancement Law Commission, all major libraries are fully equipped with a military task force who take it upon themselves to protect the books and freedom of media of the people. This anime follows Iku and her fellow soldiers as they protect various special books and artifacts from the oppression of the Media Enhancement Law Commission. A love story, war story, and comedy all rolled into one. So this was great. They even mentioned Fahrenheit 451, but it really is about censorship, and I think it was pretty relevant to today as well, of course, fanciful and everything. And yeah, it was great. And now finally, my literature recommendations. Getting ever closer to completing my goal of 100 books. First up, it is my favorite Jane Austen, which I may have recommended before, but I reread it for required reading with Tom and Stella. It's Northanger Abbey. Jane Austen's first novel, published posthumously in 1818, tells the story of Catherine Morland and her dangerously sweet nature, innocence, and sometimes self-delusion. Though Austen's fallible heroine is repeatedly drawn to scrapes while vacationing at Bath and during her subsequent visit to Northanger Abbey, Catherine eventually triumphs, blossoming into a discerning woman who learns truths about love, life, and the heady power of literature. The satirical novel pokes fun at the Gothic novel while earnestly emphasizing caution to the female sex. Then I read the graphic novel Surfside Girls, which is the second one by Kim Dwinell, and it is the mystery at Old Rancho. I'm probably not the target audience, but I love it, and they're very cute, and it's fun. Sam and Jade are back. Get ready for more ancient mysteries, beautiful beaches, cute boys, and wild adventures in this delightful full-color graphic novel. When one of the ghosts from Danger Point gets spooked, it's time for Sam and Jade to pull out the Journal of Weird and jump into action. Trying to solve this 200-year-old mystery takes the girls all over their town and beyond, all while Surfside's annual surf competition is going on. Add to the mix a cute surfer boy, a mysterious mustached man with a guitar, and a very jealous Sam. Can the surfing sleuths save the day again? Then, I was so excited for this, and Amazon jacked up my book. It was pre-ordered. The cover is ripped slightly. Makes me very sad. It is The Girl Who Lived Twice, which is the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, but they call it Millennium Series number 6 by David Lagerkrantz. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is finally ready to confront her nemesis, the only woman who is evidently and in many ways her match. Salander will not wait to be hunted. When she strikes, it will be a double blow. Vengeance for recent atrocities and the settling of lifelong scores. For months now, Salander has been closing in on her target. She has moved from Stockholm. Her hair is newly styled. Her piercings are gone. She could pass for any other businesswoman. But not all businesswomen have a Beretta cheetah beneath their jacket. They do not wield the lethal power of a hacker's genius. They do not carry scars and tattoos to remind them that they have survived the unsurvivable. The new episode is a thrilling ride that scales the heights of Everest and plunges the depths of Russian troll factories. It begins with the discovery of Mikhail Blomkvist's number at Millennium magazine in the pocket of an unidentified homeless man who died with the name of a government minister on his lips. Blomkvist, at extreme risk to himself, tracks down his old friend and will protect her as far as he can, but he is powerless to crush her enemies on his own. And for Elizabeth Salander, the personal is always political and deadly. And then The Flames of Rome by Paul L. Mayer, which I saw inside of a bathroom at a friend's house that I stayed with. I thought, this sounds interesting. A madman who murders his way into power, lusts for ever greater glory and domination. A capital city awash with corruption, sensuality, and political intrigue is at the flashpoint. And caught between the crushing currents of history are a new but growing religious group known as the Followers of the Way. Award-winning historian and best-selling author Paul L. Mayer has created a compelling style of documentary fiction using only known historical events and persons to bring to life first-century Rome in all its excess, treachery, and insanity. This is the Rome that the Apostle Paul visits, where he's placed on trial, and which is forever changed by his testimony and witness. Mayer takes readers into the courtroom of imperial justice and into the homes of the people struggling with the new faith they've encountered to answer questions such as, how did Christianity first reach Rome? Why did Paul have to wait 2 years for trial, and why was he condemned, and was he condemned or set free? Why does the New Testament account in Acts end so abruptly? Who set fire to Rome, and why did Nero persecute Christians so horribly? Following the family of Flavius Sabinus, mayor of Rome under Nero, captures all the drama and tension of the political conflicts that precede and follow the Great Fire of Rome, and the epic political and religious clashes of the world's capital. This is the sensational story of pagans at their worst and Christians at their best. Readers won't want to put it down. I will say that there's a shipper, and I loved the shipper, and I was on board once that shipper began. And I was not disappointed. But no, it was great, I would say. And it's not, if you're not someone who wants to read like religion, then it's not like hit your head over it. It's actually just following historically. And yeah, it doesn't put, some things from Christianity, but just to make sense of who these people are and their tenets and everything and their beliefs. And then I've also been reading Batman and the Outsiders, Volume 1 and 2 by Mike W. Barr, and that's been a lot of fun because I like Halo. So what I've been doing is during the week, Monday through Friday, I read literature, and then Saturday and Sunday I usually read comics or a graphic novel so that I can not be, sometimes I get stressed with like, oh, I've got all these things I need to read. So that way I can not be stressed and everything has its place and what it does. And I can also read the graphic novels that I get that sometimes slowly accumulate. So there you go. Those are my literature recommendations. Remember, you can send any questions or comments to batgirloracle@gmail.com. You can also find the show on Google Play and Stitcher. Like the show on Facebook or follow it on Twitter @BatgirlOracle. Follow the Batman Universe on Facebook and Twitter as well. And be sure to support the Batman Universe by subscribing to Patreon. Once again, thanks to Mile High Comics for sponsoring Batgirl the Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast. And thanks also to Shag for coming on and doing the hunt for Oracle with me. Next will be my Halloween commentary. And then next month will be a twofer with Tom Panarese and probably his last on the show for a little bit. But until then, fly on, Babs lovers.
Just plain Barbara Gordon, masquerading for a lark as she rides into the night on her special Batgirl cycle. Who knows? Is the dynamic duo destined to become the triumphant trio? Only time will tell us more about this dazzling daredoll.
I love a happy ending, don't you?
Well, thank you.
Well, that was awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I did not think we would talk for 2 hours. Oh, my God.
You kept trying to rush me. I was very nervous.
I just got so excited about it. All my notes, I realized it's not even worth breaking it down by issue. And I should have, I guess. But all my notes were just collectively as one story because it was really just, again, a running fight the whole time.
Yeah. That's why I'm here to lead the podcast.
And I appreciate that. I should have let you do that. I was mansplaining our way through the thing.
You're right.